That's what she said. All right, welcome. We are live now. I am Dominica May. I'm joined by my two guests tonight, Sharad from Malaysia and Mike Brown from New York City. And my two friends, they have never met before tonight. So this is pretty exciting.
We've never met, but I can already tell you that Sharad is one of my closest friends of all time.
I'm not surprised. Look, Mike, I already introduced you to Sim, one of my other Malaysian friends. So
And now we're besties.
This is how we make things work. All right, so tonight this is a new kind of live stream that I'm trying out. I called it "Let's Get Vulnerable."
Testing. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we're live already. We're good. Sure.
I can't hear you guys.
No, oh my goodness, we should have tested this before. Sure.
What is going on?
Before we started the live stream, you heard us just fine. Right. Okay, so Dominica, when he gets his audio working, let's move our mouths.
Okay, that's right.
And make him think that, yeah. For anyone just joining this live stream, this is the most brilliant, wonderful thing that has just happened.
It's so funny because, like, genuinely, he could hear us before. So I don't know, like turning his fan off, turned off his headphones.
Turn the fan back on. Should we write him a message?
Shh, there's a private chat message in there.
Turn the fan back on. I'm gonna write it. I'm gonna do this.
You really want to write that message for Sharad? We can start with some questions, and then he can answer the question without knowing what the question is when his headphones are
I love that. On. Oh, I love that idea.
Although I do have, since the questions are on, you can flip your screen, Mike, if you want it to be read in the right direction.
It is backwards. Well, he can still figure it out.
Surely there's a way to flip your screen, because mine's the correct way. No, you're being like that.
No, politician.
Was it? I saw a video. There was a video of I think RFK Jr. who was trying
for fuck's sake,
to make his thing flip the right way around, and he turned his computer upside down or something. I was like, that's not how to do it.
You said RFK Jr. and Sharad's immediate response was, "Oh fuck!"
Oh, for fuck's sake! Oh god.
At least we know he can hear us now.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I was playing around and trying to figure out what was wrong, and I just popped the wire. So there we go.
As they always say, is it plugged in?
Apparently, yeah. Is your thingy on? Yeah. Okay. It's my old man moment. So there you go.
That's what she said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mike is spot on with all of that's what she said jokes. That was one of
I try to be. I miss you.
Strongest memories of having you as my guest for my Lego streams in the past.
Admittedly. Well, I mean, if you couldn't already tell, I am 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's awesome.
Also, I have my Lego in my background, so
Also, I'm coming to you live from my mother's basement, so.
That's cool.
I am the mother in this picture.
Okay. Call me mommy, huh? Okay.
just not Mike's mother.
Yeah.
All right, so let's now that we're all sorted, let me do a quick spiel. All right, so I wanted to do kind of more vulnerable conversations. I feel like a lot of people are feeling kind of disconnected these days and afraid to open up and share kind of their vulnerable experiences. And I attended this event called Skip the Small Talk back in July for meeting strangers and having vulnerable conversations with them rather than small talk, kind of getting to know you stuff. And it has like a card deck that you can buy. So they had like these questions cards available there. So I bought the deck and like let's try a couple, and we don't have to stick exclusively to the deck. If there are other questions that you guys want to know, we can spitball, bounce off of things, and yeah. And if there's anything that you don't want to answer, don't feel obligated to it.
Right.
Some things might be too much. I have some like topics that are the no-goes for me in the public sphere. Yeah, we'll see how things go. All right. So the first question here: tell me some things about the world that you find magical or inspiring, beautiful, or just really interesting or cool.
Tell me some things about the world that you find magical, awe-inspiring, beautiful, or just really interesting or cool.
Mike, do you want to go first?
Do you have a bullet in the chamber?
Sort of. Okay, so just to, just to fill you in, I don't know whether, like, I don't even know if Dominica knows. A few years ago, when I was in the US, I contracted a really nasty virus called Guillain-Barré syndrome. And
congratulations!
Yeah, of course, it's great. It was an autoimmune disorder, and doctors said that I would never walk again. I had a short-term memory of like 3 minutes before I would pass out, and when I came to, I had no idea where I was. And when I was discharged from the hospital, I hated being out in public because here's this guy in a wheelchair. And at the time, my caregiver, who was my late mother, she would help push me around, and people would stare, and it would get to the point where it would just drive me nuts. Where people would like. I remember one time we were in an elevator, and this random guy just goes, what's a young man like you doing in a wheelchair? And that just set me off. So it depends. But I mean, with that being said, I am very, very grateful because at the time, my only escape was going to the cinema. I loved it. The cinema was great. It was a good chance to be out of the house. And local cinema nearby where I lived, the staff there just, the best way I can describe them is angels without wings. Because every time they would see me, they would they would make all the customers part. I would go straight up to the front. They would they would give me all the free gifts, like the little tumblers and what have you. They would wheel me to the cinema, get me into my seat when the film ended. They would bring my wheelchair back, and that was and I didn't even ask for this, mind you. And also as a parting gift, they would because they knew I was into movies, all the film posters that were no longer needed, they would roll them up carefully and give them to me. So, and without even me asking. So that was like my one kind of solace place where it just reignited that there is good in the world.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah, man. That's awesome.
I don't know. I was so lost in your story. I forgot to think of like.
That's the point. You're not supposed to think while you're listening to somebody else's story.
The biggest takeaway I can give you to and those watching is it's very easy to kind of pick out the bullshit in the world, the evil in the world, the people who don't care or whatever. But if you give people just an inch, just a little bit of goodwill, people can surprise you in an amazing way. Like the fact is, if you, let's say, for example, if you go into any situation, you're going into a vehicle, a place, you're meeting someone, what have you, if you expect the worst, you're going to get the worst. And the only thing that can surprise you more than people's capacity for stupidity, which is whatever, their compassion is a whole different level. So give people a chance, and they might surprise you in a good way.
That's what we need right now.
Yeah.
We really need that right now.
I don't have a beautiful story like Sharad does, but on in kind of a bigger macro plane of existence, I grew up in a very like everyone grows up in the community where they grow up in, right? You have no choice where you get to grow up. And so the community where I grew up was very racist, homophobic, sexist, xenophobic, all of the icks, right? Um, and to me, that was just how the world worked, every stereotype about every person who didn't look or talk or act like me fit into a different category. And all of those different categories were somehow subpar or not good enough, or they whatever, put whatever qualifier you want on it. And it wasn't until I left that community and I moved to Ireland for a few years, and then I moved back to the States in Philadelphia, lived in Center City, Philadelphia, and then eventually in New York. My whole worldview pivoted 180 degrees, because all of those things that I was taught about all of these different demographics of people had been shattered, and I realized none of it was true. Um, and I think that is the beautiful thing that traveling the world taught me, is you come across all of these different people from every circumstance imaginable, uh, and they teach you just a little bit about who they are. And then you meet somebody else in a completely different set of circumstances on a different continent from what that last person was. And they teach you just a tiny little bit about who they are. And then eventually, from talking to people and experiencing life and traveling, uh, and just living life to the fullest in that extent, you realize that people are not who you were taught that they were. And I think for me that was such a valuable lesson, one that I continually am surprised by, because I do work in the travel industry, and I meet people every single day, and some people surprise you for the worse, but sometimes people surprise you for the better. And I love that opportunity to hopefully try to better myself based off of the people that I meet and learn from. So I think that's why the world is beautiful and awe-inspiring place.
I love that. I'm going to bounce off of that rather than specifically answering the question, because I feel similarly. I didn't grow up in as overtly racist as what, and sexist and homophobic and all that as what you did, probably, Mike. It was more like subtle. That's kind of what it was in the 90s as well. And for me, living in Malaysia was what opened up my eyes to people of different backgrounds and being more open into things. But I want to kind of counter or challenge that having those kinds of experiences does not impact everyone who has those kinds of experiences. And I say this because when I lived in Malaysia, we were like part of the couch surfing community, and were hosts for people to stay in our apartment. We had a spare bedroom, so we opened it up to people for free to stay sometimes. And we had this young white Australian couple who came and stayed with us, and they expressed views that certainly came across as white supremacy. And like, you're coming here to Malaysia, I'm like, what is going on with you? How can you be like coming to a place like this and have those kinds of views and espouse those kinds of views? And like, I found it really challenging and hard to understand how they could be like that but travel to a place that is not predominantly white, like I didn't get that at all. But I think they were kind of like talking about, well, no, but our country should be like just this way, and those people should stay in their countries, and that was like that. But that's no.
They said
So-
as they uttered in a different country that was not
Yeah.
their
I
homeland.
was about to say, like, you're in Malaysia, bro.
it was so bizarre. But like, they were younger than me. I mean, I was in my I guess
Oh, look at Elsie.
mid to late 20s at the time, and they were like late teens, early 20s, I think. So you could be hopeful that at that age they'll learn a thing or two and grow out of it. But given the recent election results and seeing how Gen Z men in particular kind of swayed towards white nationalism, it's one of those trying times. So yeah. I feel like I live in a bubble. I don't really like, all of my connections are, much more liberal. I don't know how to kind of I don't know if the people that I've had in my life who are more right wing have just slowly extricated themselves from my life, or they just never, like, I never fostered friendships with people like that, or what. Like, but I feel like I'm in a bubble that I don't really see much of those kinds of views except
Well, you live
on
in
social
San
media.
Francisco. San Francisco is a very liberal city.
Yes,
I live in New
but
York, a
I
very
haven't-
liberal city.
I haven't always lived here, right? I grew up in Australia where it was a predominantly white neighborhood. There were very, very few non-white people in school with me. And in fact, the ones that weren't white, I did not even register to me as anyone different. Like, we just didn't discuss race in any kind of context, right? Apart from like in history, right? It wasn't like with the people around us. It was just like in history class. So that I should probably, and I have family all across the US, and I'm sure some of them must have those kinds of views, but I'm not really connected to them.
Yeah. They're out there.
Maybe that's what's magical in my life, is I don't have those people in my life.
Totally fair. Which, I mean, I've had these conversations with people. We live in our own bubbles, right? And anytime someone enters your bubble that makes you feel uncomfortable, we tend to cut them out of our bubble. And so now the conversation has ended, at least in that small percentage, because the people that they are being exposed to that can challenge those ideas and thoughts are that much less now. And it's hard to say to your friends that are, they brag about, oh well, I cut this person out of my life because I don't need to be around that. I get it. You have to protect your mental health. I get it. But also,
People
if
like
not
that,
you, then who?
yeah, people like that need liberal people that are willing to kind of reach out and help them see the human side that they're not seeing. Like, I know I had like when I was much younger, I had very different views about people who were poor, and it was through like a writing competition that I did 15 years ago now, I think, that I met someone who is now I consider a very good friend of mine, but she grew up in literal poverty, like, no running water and that kind of thing. And her stories really opened up my eyes to understanding more the systemic issues that kind of come into play. But I do feel like you need to have an open mind to be open to having your views challenged so that you can change your perspective on things, and meeting people who you do feel sympathetic towards that will help you learn to change your perspective.
May I put a caveat on that? Yes, you need to have someone with an open mind, but I didn't have an open mind. I had a very closed mind. My views were taught to me by religious leaders and my community and stuff like that. And it was my meeting and talking to people and having them explain to me their situations. Um, like, case in point, when I was in college, um, at the time, I had very strong views on the LGBTQ community, and it my views didn't change in a heartbeat. Like there was no one moment that was like, oh, I've been, right. It was years of me becoming friends with people from that community, and I definitely I liked who they were, and then when they came out to me and said, "You're the only person who doesn't know," I was like, "You've been gay this whole time? What? How did you?" You know. And I got to love them as a person before from my perspective at that time. Keep in mind, at that time, I got to love them as a person before I got to know this dirty little secret, right? Or at least how I perceived that at the time. And my goodness, like these all of those experiences forced me to have an open mind.
Quick interruption question about that. So did you change your perspective about all LGBT people after that, or just that particular person? I'll explain while I'm asking in a second after your answer.
There. Can you still see me?
Yeah.
There was no. Come on, bud. We all love you. You can be the star of the show, but I got it. This is Brazos, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah, such a little cutie. It was. Sorry, his fur is now stuck all over in my facial hair. There was no one person. It was, geez, 10, 15 people that, one after the other, I was like, what? Like, I love these people, but now I have this dissonance in my brain. I've been taught that I'm not either not supposed to love these people, or that I've been taught I've been taught things that make these people lost in my worldview, right? And so the dissonance was so loud in my brain, I didn't know how to reconcile that. And it wasn't until it was instance after instance after instance, and slowly over time, and hearing other people from my same religious background, my same religious community, when I started hearing other people start to accept people from the LGBTQ community. And at the time, gay marriage or rather marriage equality had yet to be a universal thing in the United States. So there was this conversation of, do you vote yes for marriage equality, or do you vote no, that it's only for heterosexuals? And that was a lot of dissonance, because I felt like voting yes was the right thing to do, but I also felt like it was coming at the expense of my religious background. And yeah, that was a tough thing for me at the time. And we've since moved past, and I have very different feelings on it all, on like the religious side of things now. Um, but yeah, so well, like, what was the question that you had?
Okay, the reason I asked was if if your mindset shifted just for that one person who came out as gay to you, or if it was across like the entire community, is because my dad espouses very anti-trans views, and
Mhm.
I've tried to have conversations with him about it. And now my dad has uh, is connected to a young trans person in his life, and he's been able to grasp that this particular trans teen knows herself and is able to advocate for herself, but she's different from other trans teens who want to go on puberty blockers and have the hormones and that sort of thing. Those other teens don't know what they're talking about. They're too young to understand. So
Mhm.
that was why I was asking, like, because that's some disconnect. Why is this one okay but the other ones are not?
Well, I mean, that's a very common thing in these small town, small-minded, religious communities. Uh, there's always the exception for my experience as the heterosexual in the room, as the cis white male in the room. My experience and those people in my life uh, get exceptions because I know you,
Hmm.
right? And that's just across the board. It doesn't matter what demographic you fall into. Um, uh, Privilege, anyone?
No, there's so many of those kinds of stories that have been coming out since the election results. I feel like of stories of people feeling like, oh, well, there are the views that he won't come after me and my family because of X, Y, and Z, because I'm the exception. He's just going to go after those people. It's like, no, you're
No.
counted in those people.
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of talking here. I'm interested to hear what Sharad has to say.
Well, I know it's very very it's a very tricky subject, isn't it? Um, the thing that comes to my mind in terms of my experience, this happened about, I want to say, almost 20 years ago. I'm getting old. 20 years ago when I was in university in Hull in England, and back then I was a very very different person. I was. I represented my school in rugby, like our version of American football. So like, but without the pads. And I played football, I played rugby, and we had this very typical kind of group of guys that you have this image of. And
Mhm.
I remember, like, we were on a night out, and one of my friends came up to me, like, I was just having a cigarette outside, and he came outside, and this is around past midnight, and he's like, "Hey, can I tell you something?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." He's like, "I think I like guys," and he's like, I was like, "Oh, good for you. That there's nothing wrong with that." And he actually broke down because he said that I was the first person on the team that he told that didn't reject him. And I just
Wow.
remember, like, yeah, and I just remember thinking, why is that an issue? Because number one, he's a good looking kid, so that means there's more women for us. So he's off the market. So fantastic. And yeah, and I mean, and to be fair, that was then. And, he's living his life now. He's married now, which is fantastic. And it just goes to show that having some grace just to listen and don't pass judgment on others could make someone's day can shift the whole lifestyle approach perspective. And it costs you
Yeah.
nothing.
Sharad, were you raised to, like, in a way that you were told that homosexuality was wrong, or was it something that just didn't really come up, and so when this guy came out to you, it was like, oh, no big deal?
Well, I mean, yes and no, because I grew up in Malaysia. I stayed until I was 16 before I moved to the UK and later to the US. Obviously, people when you're in school, all the little kids like, oh my god, he's gay, blah, blah, blah. Like whatever, right? But it was never an issue, even though in Malaysia we can be quite backward in terms of the laws. Like for example, if it used to be a thing where if you were an open homosexual and you got caught doing something that you're not supposed to be doing, there could be some serious repercussions. Thankfully, that hasn't been an issue from what I can remember for the last 20, 30 years, because up until that point, well,
excuse me. I mean, having lived in Malaysia at a time where the opposition party's leader was arrested for sodomy,
yeah.
that was more recent than 20 years ago.
That was different, yeah. No, but in terms of there's no capital punishment or anything at all like that. But I mean, politics aside, that's a different thing. But I think that as a society, everywhere, I think we're slowly becoming more accepting. It might take us a bit longer than we would like, but I mean, things take time, and it's important to have grace and listen. Because as you were saying, obviously, if you identify as, in your case, liberal, and someone else identifies as a MAGA personality, cutting them out of your life is just it's going to segregate everyone, and it's going to radicalize them and yourself. There's going to be no communication, and that's just not what you want to do. So you can either cut them off and just be like, all right, you do your thing, I do my thing, or we can just be homies and try to meet in the middle. So.
Or a little bit more to the left.
It's tough. It's tough because we practicing what we preach, when it's uncomfortable, people don't necessarily stick up for what they can talk the talk, but they don't always walk the walk. So
yeah, I mean, sure, stuff.
I'm trying to think of examples when I have deliberately cut people off, and it's been very, very rare for me. My ex-husband is the main one, and I haven't cut him off completely because I still have to communicate with him for co-parenting.
Well, yeah, but that wasn't political.
But, no, no. But in general, I'm someone who has had someone cut me out of their life, and I know how painful that is, right? So I think that's one of the things that makes
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that to you.
You're back now. No,
you're here now. You're here now.
Look, I've written a memoir about it. If people want to know, they can wait until
I've read it. It was good.
No, you've read my blog post, which is now pay to read. I've changed the access to it now. But my memoir is much longer. But I think because I've had that kind of experience, I know what it's like how painful it is to just be completely cut off and have no idea why, not have any explanation. I think that's one of the things that makes it hard for me to cut somebody off completely, unless it's for my absolute safety reasons, or mental health reasons. I did have to block somebody who I was worried about my safety around, and when he was calling me, I blocked his number, and then he ended up calling me from an unknown number, and I answered. I'm like, what the fuck? So I've been in those kinds of experiences, but it's very, very rare for me to cut people off for any reason other than they are making me incredibly uncomfortable and feel unsafe to be around.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Next question.
All right. Okay. Well, look, we veered off into some interesting topics here. All right.
I hope that was an acceptable non sequitur.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
That's great. We've got so many cards in here. We're not going to get them all tonight. This is why I hope to make this a serious kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right, so this next question is your life chaotic boring, or somewhere in the middle right now? And what's contributing to any chaos?
There's a lot.
Dominique, do you want to kick this one off?
Oh, for me, my life is incredibly chaotic right now. Very, very much. Some stuff I can probably talk about in more detail than others. But reasons my life is chaotic. I mean, this year, the beginning of the year, that's a situation where somebody cut me out of their life. That happened for the second time from the same person at the beginning of this year. That sent me into turmoil and caused a whole bunch of trauma responses and me acting incredibly out of character for myself. And it was very destabilizing for me. And I'm only just now in the last few weeks feel like I'm starting to get out of the bad habits that I was in as a result of that situation. And, you know, that's what 11 months later, like that's a lot. Then I lost my job in August. Like on the same day that I went to a court hearing for child support. Now the child support order went in my favor, so that was great. And then coming home from that, it was like, and now you are no longer needed at the company. Like my entire team was laid off. So that was like really shitty for me to have to go through. And I'm still on the like job hunt, looking for work, trying to figure things out, trying to battle against depression as a result of that. My ex-husband is trying to appeal the child support order because he didn't like the order as the judge ordered it. So I can't really go into detail about that given it's an open case at the moment. It's just frustrating to have to deal with it because like I have to pay for a lawyer. He's representing himself, so it's not costing him anything. And then the election results just made me way out of whack. You know, I very worried about the safety of my family and the future of the country, and have been like debating whether or not I even want to stay in the US or if it's more understandable for me to go back to Australia. Like I don't know what's the best option for me right now. So yeah, not boring at all. I wish it was more happier things. I do have some things that I'm looking forward to. Not this coming weekend, but next weekend is Fan Expo convention in San Francisco. So I'm glad that I have that coming out. They finally announced the schedule, the final schedule today, and like the times of the photo shoots and things. So I was like able to kind of plan.
What do you have on your to-do list for for FanX?
Fan Expo. So I have photo ops with Charlie Cox.
Nice.
That was the one that I like. Once he was announced, like that was the one. Like, okay, I have to. And Vincent D'Onofrio was meant to be there as well, but he cancelled. So I'm like I've been a fan of Vincent D'Onofrio since Law and Order: Criminal Intent. So I'm like, God damn it, God damn it. It's fine.
I was on Criminal Intent. I will have you know.
Oh my God, jealous.
Just background. Just background.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah. I did not get to share a scene with Vincent D'Onofrio.
That's a shame. But yeah, he was like my absolute favorite. Like that was my favorite Law and Order strictly because of him. Like the best. So anyway, not getting to see him since he's cancelled. I just watched the Demon Slayer anime with my daughter, and the voice actor who plays Tanjiro Komodo, Zach Aguilar, I think, is going to be there, and he's got a panel, so I'm gonna go
know
to
that name.
Do you? He's voiced a bunch of other things as well. I just don't remember them off the top of my head. I think they said he does voice acting in the Genshin Impact video game as well. I haven't played that.
So I'm friends with a pretty big name, like a very big name voice actor. And so I'm wondering if in his posts on social media that Vincent, what's his name?
No,
Aguilar?
Zach Aguilar.
Oh, Zach Aguilar. I'm wondering if his name keeps popping up because of
maybe they've worked together.
Yeah.
That's possible. Yeah, Jodie Benson, who is the voice of Ariel in The Little Mermaid, is going to be there. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Isn't it neat?
That's like one of my all-time favorite Disney songs. I've sung like, yeah, I try to do her exact voice when I sing that song. I don't know how successful I am, but anyway, Giancarlo Esposito is going to be there.
Oh, nice.
Just been like finally making my way through Better Call Saul. I have 1 season left.
Wow.
Yeah.
You better ask him to get you some behind insider Easter eggs for Thunderbolts.
Oh, I didn't realize he was going to be in that. It's cool.
Oh, sorry. No, not Thunderbolts. Captain America 4, Brave New World.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah,
I
he's
didn't
the
know
villain.
I didn't realize that either. There's so much I'm behind on. John Rhys Davies is going to be there.
Oh, nice.
Love John Rhys Davies.
Yeah. Man, I know there's other people, and I'm just like I'm blanking on stuff. But anyway, that's yeah.
Cool.
Exciting.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
You'll remember what the question was?
No.
Do you live a chaotic life, a boring life, or somewhere in between?
Oh boy, where do we start? I think honestly, on the balance, it has to be somewhere in between. If you're one or the other completely, it's not going to be a very long-lasting kind of life, is it? It depends. One thing I have come to learn in recent years is that you have to take the good with the bad. As easy as that sounds, it can be a bit tricky. But the good thing is, I know it does sound a bit cheesy, but tomorrow is a new day. And you never know whether your emotions are a bit off, or physically you're not well, or you've had a tragedy in your life. Tomorrow could be a better day, right? So that's one thing I've come to learn and appreciate is if you think to yourself, "Oh, life's horrible. I'm not going to get it any better." Guess what? Life isn't going to get any better. No matter how many good things that the universe puts in front of you, if your mindset is, all right, I'm just going to let that pass on by. I'm just going to sit here in my sweatpants, eat chocolate, and not leave my bedroom. Nothing's going to happen to you. Although the chocolate is tempting. So it really does depend. But one thing I am grateful for is once you get out of that slump, which is hard, after that, it's so much more easier. If you always think, okay, if I can do this and then do this and then do this and then do this, there's an actual plan. No, I mean not concrete, but you can see it in your mind's eye, and that's hopeful. So I think what I'm trying to say is, if you give yourself some grace and you plan for some things ahead, things will look up. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, sometimes.
Are you a person? Okay. No,
I was going to say, sometimes you just need like small steps. You don't know where it's going to lead to, but just need some positive thing or something to do that is progress. And eventually it will lead to, and you will discover what it is that it leads to. And that's what my process of going through my divorce was like, right? It was just like, I don't know where this is going to end up, but I just know I need to do this at the moment. Just focus on the now, the present. What can I do now? And not think about, 5 years down the track, a year down the track. Sometimes it's just, you don't know what's going to happen, but what can you do now to change what's happening now?
Yeah. Mike, you want to say something?
Yeah. Do you find that you are the kind of person that does make that choice to not stay in bed, to not wear your sweatpants, to not eat chocolate in bed?
Yes and no. I think it's a very easy slope to go down. But one thing is that you almost have to let life kick you in the ass before you actually make a decision that, okay, I'm either going to do this or I can decide to do something else. So I honestly think that one thing that helped me the most whenever I was in those moods um, was to see the progress from my illness. Because after I was diagnosed and I was in the hospital, doctors were honest and they said, okay, odds are with your condition, Guillain-Barré syndrome, all I could do is this. I literally could not do anything else with this hand. And doctors warned me, okay, odds are be prepared. You might not be able to walk again. You might not be able to feed yourself. You might not be able to do this and do that. And I learned with every small victory where I went to the bathroom by myself, I ate by myself, I did this, I did that. It's a very, very humbling thing. And I've noticed that if you give yourself that much, if you celebrate each small victory, that contributes to something. And so don't think of it as a big picture, as in, my life's horrible, that nothing I do can seem to be going right. Think about, okay, I achieved this today that I couldn't do yesterday, or I'm going to try and aim to do this tomorrow that I couldn't do last week. And if you do that, that's just, the only way is up.
Agreed.
Yes.
I think for me, I enjoy the chaos in my life. So I keep adding more chaos. And I know, right?
No, let's face it, there's good chaos and bad chaos.
Yeah.
There's a difference between chaos and drama. And
Yes.
I prefer chaos because it means I have projects happening. So we've all taken the Myers-Briggs test before, right? And it turns out that I am an ENFP, which basically, at the heart of it, I have so many things that I'm interested in, and I need to be active in doing things. I end up starting projects but never finish them. That is who I am. And it's always been a tough pill to swallow, especially when kind of taking Sharad's advice into play of, well, look at the progress that you're making slowly when you start so many projects that you give up on. But I love just having so many things to do and to work on. It took me a long time to realize how many people never even start their projects. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I haven't finished the vast majority of them, but I've started them. I've given them at least a little bit of effort. Like Dominica, you were on my YouTube channel on
Yes.
my movie talk thing,
Yep.
and I put so much love into that show, and it went nowhere. And I did it.
Fun though.
It was really fun. I really enjoyed doing it. It was my COVID project that I was like, all right, I've got all this time. I'm going to build my audience. I'm really gonna go for it. And I felt like I did. I gave it 110% because I produced anywhere between 4 and 8 or 9 videos every single day, Monday through Friday.
Jesus. Okay.
Hours of content. And I felt like I was doing all the right things, and it amassed in 2 years 600 subscribers, which is nothing. And it, like, when I had that realization of, here we are 2 years later, and I don't have hardly any subscribers. What the fuck?
Look, you still did better than me. Look, I still am at 44 subscribers.
You have 44, but you're still doing it, and you're not focused on the end product. You're doing it because you love it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what it is for me. Is like, am I getting something out of it? Am I doing what I want to do? Then who cares if people are paying attention or not? And that's kind of that's the attitude I need to have in order to continue doing things. Because like if I'm searching for, that high, I like if that never comes, I'm just gonna give up. I actually wrote a blog post kind of along these lines 2 or 3 days ago. I think I published it on Sunday. I was talking about my quest to end my need for external validation, right? Because
Wow.
that's what
Okay.
it is, right? Is like when you're chasing that external validation,
So you
you want
can't hack it anymore, huh?
right? It's like, no, I know where it came from. It came from my childhood and feeling like I was only good enough for my mum if I reached like certain goals or that she had for me, right? And so it was like continually chasing after, well, I need this for attention, I need that for attention, otherwise like I'm worthless unless people are paying attention to me. Like, you don't need hundreds of people paying attention to you, though. As long as you've got like a handful of people who care about you, then to me that's what matters more now. But I still like, I mean, the blog post came about as a result of me analyzing my how I was processing things with my ex situationship and him ghosting me again, and then coming to the realization that one of the things that got me hooked on him is that he was giving me this external validation that I was craving. And I had gone like 3 years maybe of not needing external validation before he and I got together. And that was like a lot of hard work after my divorce. I'm like, I don't need this anymore. And then suddenly he's giving me all this validation. I'm like, now I need this again. And so it was like a long process of trying to get out of that and understanding, well, what is it like, what are the things that trigger me into that mindset that I need that external validation for starters, and how can I change so that I'm not chasing after that validation from people who don't give a shit about me. Right, like, and so I just had like this mindset shift towards the end of October that kind of helped me be like, you know what, there are people in my life who care about the things that I care about, and I can talk to them about these things, that I don't need to chase after it from him anymore, right? So like my last live stream that I did with you, Sharad, and Puppy Zach was about the 90s teen horror films. And movies was one of the things that I was, really connected with my ex on. And I was like, it was like craving, like, oh man, I really want to talk in depth about movies, and I can't talk to him about it anymore. Like, who else in my life can I reach out to for that sort of thing? So just really paying attention to who are the people who consistently show up for me when I reach out to them. And those are the people I need to spend more time making an effort with, rather than chasing after the people who have shown me consistently that they don't actually give a shit about me.
Yeah, I think as we get older, that old saying goes, your circle gets smaller but stronger, right? The older you get, and yeah. So I think if you keep on to it and you focus on your tribe, your people, you'll be fine. And just to go back to what you both were saying about YouTube and your experiences, I find you both extremely inspirational, because that's amazing. And like it's amazing that you wait, no, I'm being serious, so the fact that you're willing to like chase after like your dream, and most people wouldn't even get that far. And obviously I'm here to support you both. And if you guys do decide to get back out there with your YouTube, I'll be your subscriber. I'm already done subscriber. I'll be yours as well, Mike. And yeah, so you just have to keep on doing it. And you never know. All you need is one video, one day for things to just blow up, right? So like for example, there was a friend of mine I went to college with in Savannah, a lovely guy, lovely chap, and up until recently, he started his own YouTube, and now he's got tens of millions of subscribers, and he's just doing his own thing. So, but the most important thing that he told me was you just have to keep doing it, because number one, it's the YouTube algorithm, which I'm sure you two know more about than I do, and what have you. But just keep doing it, because at the end, yeah, it's tough. But at the end of the day, though, if you're doing things that you love, not because you're trying to, do this whole production, but putting yourself out there. I mean, all you need is one video one day to just completely lift off, and so all you need is one. So just keep doing what you're doing.
I think, like, to that end, I can't remember the exact phrasing of how you said it, but the essence was do what you love and keep doing what you love. I only loved the YouTube show because of the external validation. That's why I loved the YouTube show. If a shameless plug over here, I know it's backwards, but I started my own company called Pineapple Improv, where I go into corporations and businesses and teach not how to be funny, but use the tools of improv to be a better communicator, to have better empathy, to have better presentation and public speaking skills, stuff like that, listening, creative problem solving, all that stuff. That truly is what I love, because that's the stuff that I do for free that everybody else says, Mike, stop giving it away for free.
Charge people for your improv skills.
Yeah. If you're good at something, never do it for free.
Thanks, Heath Ledger.
You're welcome.
This is why I charge people for my video skills. Like,
You
people wanted
should.
me to do people wanted me to do stuff. It's like, no, if you want, I have a high quality video camera, not, I'm not using my phone. I know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, if you want me to video your show, pay me for it, which is why I've only videoed one show in the last 4 years. Because I wanted to charge a lot for it. But I mean, like, if you have the skills, then and you're worth paying for, people will pay for it.
That's true.
Very true.
But
next question.
I just wanted to go into, I know you said that you liked your YouTube channel because of the external validation. I enjoyed being a guest on them just to talk movies. Like, that was entertaining to me. I kind of miss that, actually. It was fun to be able to just
honestly,
talk
I
movies
loved
with
doing
you.
it. I absolutely loved doing it. And I love talking to people. I loved, like, all the different little segments that we would create. I loved doing the prep work for it. Like, it was work, and there were some mornings and I'm like, it's 8:00 in the morning. Why do I have to wake up now? So, like, there was stuff like that like, it just I didn't like it. Or there are aspects to it that I didn't like, but overall I really enjoyed producing that show and doing it. I think it was that part. I really just enjoyed connecting with people and having friends on and talking movies. It was all of the editing, because the show only lasted, like, I think at max 2 hours, but I tried to keep it around like an hour 15, something like that. And after the show was over, I would spend the next 6 hours editing all of that footage so that I could, like, cut it up into segments and upload it. And it was the editing that became tedious. I mean, it's weird that I actually enjoy film editing, but
strange human being.
I know. But with that quantity, I did it for the views. Like, I could just do a live stream whenever I want. Hey, everyone, come join my live stream. And today we're talking about What's a movie that's in theaters right now? I haven't even actually been to the movies.
Wicked is coming out.
Oh, right, yeah.
There you
Wicked
go.
is coming out this weekend. Hey, this week we're talking Wicked, blah blah blah. Like, join the stream and let's talk about it. But it was all of the tedious work that came after that I was doing that for the views.
Yeah, and that
No
is
stuff.
exactly why I live stream. Because I don't want to do all of that tedious editing stuff.
Well, I mean, since we're on the subject, Mike, is there a particular editing program that you use?
I jumped around a lot. I think I don't want to close this window browser. I did Movavi for a little while, but that was a subscription service. It was pretty good, but there were aspects that I didn't love. Just like really basic, because I use like Apple technology. So like iMovie works well for just like really basic stuff. It's really easy and simple to use. The golden standard is Adobe. But
Premiere Pro?
Yeah,
Or-
I just don't.
Or if you're on Mac, Final Cut Pro, that's what I use.
Yeah. I just don't want to spend the money for it.
Yeah.
It's because I don't think they let you buy the software. I think it's only like rented,
Now?
like through a subscription service. You don't pay a monthly fee or like a yearly fee?
I don't know. I still have my same Final Cut Pro from maybe
2011.
probably around then, from like 2011.
Totally fair.
So,
I think they, and I might be totally mistaken here, but I feel like they turned it into a subscription service.
Well, if you feel like, let's say, if you have an editing program that's very user friendly, like it requires minimal input, do you think that would help you kind of relaunch your YouTube? No,
because I'm very particular in my editing. I want it to, I get down to like the microseconds of audio. So like I need to, because like as a comedian, as a former musician, timing is very important to me. So I need, if I end a video with me going, all right, everybody, let me know what you think down in the comments below. And then I cut it. It's that last breath of me going, that like will drive me fucking nuts. So it's finding those moments and cutting it down. And also, if I feel like what I'm doing right now, being very long-winded, there's a lot of stuff that I will just cut because it doesn't need to be there. It's if you're familiar with like film editing, it's referred to as shoe leather. It just doesn't need to be there. So yeah, I'm my own worst enemy.
We all are. I feel like everyone is their own worst enemy. I feel like I self-sabotage all the time.
What would humanity be without a little self-sabotage, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Next question.
All right, let me draw something from the middle of the deck. Let's see if this is a good one. Okay. What sort of things make you feel safe or comfortable in a social situation? And what sort of things put you on edge?
Oh, this is an easy one for me. I will kick this one off.
Please.
Things that are very comfortable is, and it took me a long time to kind of learn this or figure out what this meant, but making fun of myself. I was made fun of all the time in school growing up. And my parents kept telling me like, well, why don't you just make fun of yourself? And I'm like, I don't know what that means. So it took me a long time to master the art of shoot, now I can't even think of the term. Like self-condescending.
Self-deprecation.
Self-deprecation,
Thank
yeah.
you. Self-deprecation. It took me a long time to figure that out and use it as a tool, and kind of be like a goofball, like kind of towing the line between serious and just completely wacky goofy. It's how I break tension. I feel like it's also a way to build tension. So that is,
Wait,
I'm a very
give us a specific example of building tension in this way. I want to hear kind of where you're going with that.
well, it's the antithesis of it, right? So you have to look at Steve Martin. So Steve Martin's philosophy when he was doing stand-up comedy is that he only gave setups. He didn't deliver punchlines. So it was set up for a whole bit, and then he moved on to the next bit. He didn't finish the bit. He moved on to the next one. And then everyone's like, "Oh, but like there was no punchline." And that is the punchline is a release of energy, right? So without that release of energy, the audience is starting to feel like not agitated, but like I don't know, maybe a little agitated. I don't know. But then he would do the next setup, but with no punchline. So there was no release of energy. And then eventually his philosophy was, if the more you do that, eventually that tension is going to build and build and build. And instead of releasing it in small segments, now it's going to cascade in mountains and mountains of laughter and guffaw and goofy silliness. So it's kind of using that the release of tension backwards a little bit, knowing where the tension is and then knowing where to break it so the tension can continue to build. Comedy.
Oh man, this is making me think about how how silence gets me to build up all of my frustrations that I end up going crazy.
So okay, yeah, so Dominica, you are a performer, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Sharad, are you also a performer?
Yeah.
Great. So we all know that how terrifying silence is on stage.
It's the worst thing that can happen. It's the worst thing. Yeah.
I love silence on stage. Personally, myself, I'm not uncomfortable with it. So that's I was talking about it in different contexts. I genuinely had an improv show that was all silent. Like it was a non-verbal improv show. We made sounds sometimes, but it was mostly like non-verbal. Like there were no words at all. And I did this show with Mike, Shirley Chan. So I did the show with her.
Oh, yes.
And I did the show with another friend of mine, Casey Busher. And we just like got super crazy. People loved it because they don't see stuff like that, like ever. and we just got like super into our bodies, like a lot of reactions based on facial expressions and, very in the moment stuff. I love scene work in improv scenes where there is silence and tension in that sort of thing. People can be uncomfortable with it, but if you go in and you trust your scene partners to know that it's not like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, right? You trust that something is happening in that silence, then it's fine, right? Now the silence in stand-up and not getting any kind of response, that's a different kind of thing.
Yes, that's different. But silence is a tool to use, right? Even in stand-up, silence is a tool. So I like to say in my classrooms, know the difference between doing nothing and having nothing to do, because there's a very, very stark contrast there. Because doing nothing is a choice. having nothing to do means you didn't prepare, and that you're not taking control of your situation.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot that you can do in that silence if you're not talking. Like, you're not doing nothing. It's like, what's happening on your face? What is your scene partner giving you? What are you like? What is that making you feel? Like, sit with that, and whatever you're feeling, that'll be expressed to the audience. They can see what's happening on your face and how you're feeling about it.
Have you guys ever seen TJ and Dave out of Chicago?
No.
I'm trying to remember. I might have seen a video of theirs, I think,
They
because
filmed one of their shows, and it's I mean, you can find it on iTunes or I don't know, like some streaming, whatever. Just Google TJ and Dave movie. But yeah, it's called Trust Us. Everything is made up, or
it's all made
something
up.
like that.
Yeah, I think I have seen it.
And they are masters. TJ and Dave are masters at using silence to their benefit. Absolute geniuses.
Mike, I assume that you probably have Garrick Paikai's Hush silent movie improv show. Did you ever actually watch that, or you're just aware of it?
No, I don't think I've ever seen it. No, okay, I don't think I've ever seen it.
So Sharad, Mike and I are friends with these improvisers in Honolulu, and one of the and the group is called On the Spot, if anyone wants to look them up. And one of their formats that they created is a silent movie format. So they have no words, and they dress up in like the 1920s style fashion, and, you know, very black and white style silent movie format. And yeah, it's an amazing show to watch. It's one of the things that kind of inspired my own interest in doing silence, like using silence in improv. So I actually took a workshop with Garrick on the, silent improv stuff. So yeah, that was actually
Garrick's
what inspired. Wonderful. That is what inspired my own nonverbal improv show.
Well, even today, I was in. I coach a team here in New York, and literally today, we came up with a brand new form that uses silence. So the form is called A Day in the Life. And so you have each scene, you have a new narrator, and the narrator just stands off to the side of the stage and narrates everything of what's happening silently. Excuse me, while the other improvisers pantomime and use emotion to convey like what they're doing. And it was the kind of thing that worked. It worked so well. It was surprisingly amazing. So give it a whirl.
Interesting.
Next question.
Wait. You think you're the only person that answered that question?
Yeah.
What sorts of things
I don't care.
Make you feel
Next question. This is my show now.
In my channel. Come on. What sort of things make you feel safe or comfortable in a social situation, and what sorts of things put you on edge? All right, while you're thinking about it, because I didn't answer the question either. I think for me, because I'm autistic, sharing special interests makes me feel safe and comfortable. So that's why, talking about movies with people who also love movies is a big thing. It's like, oh yeah, I can like just blah, 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 blah. Like, I can talk for hours or whatever about a particular topic. If somebody else also is interested in the same topic and can talk about it for hours, and like, I feel safe here. I think those are So obviously not just movies, but any of my special interests, of which I have many, because I'm like you, Mike, with having, like, I always need to have a lot of different things on the go.
We're ENFPs.
Yeah.
I'm not an extrovert though. I'm an ambivert. I discovered after moving here. It's like, oh no, I need to have a bit of introvert and extrovert. So I need both.
One fuels the other.
As long as I have the right kind of extrovert time. Like I'm not good in big social situations. So I guess this is actually a good way to answer this question. Back when I lived in Malaysia, and this is how I met Sharad, there was a regular open mic stand-up comedy night every Tuesday night called One Mic Stand. And after the open mic night, we would all go and hang out at a mamak afterwards, because it was like the only place that you could hang out late at night. And it was like, it'd be a huge group of us chatting around the table. And I was not very good at speaking up and getting to know people when it was large group settings. And so I would stay there until the last people were leaving. And it was only like towards the end of the night, when there was like down to a group of, 3 or 4 people, that I started to feel comfortable in talking and opening up and getting to know who was there. So that's a big thing for me. Like big groups of people where it's too hard to focus and know when is appropriate to jump into the conversation versus small groups. It's a big difference for me.
That's interesting that you say that. I have a friend that I only just recently found out that they have a very similar uncomfortableness in like those large groups. And it's because when they were younger, they never had their family moved around a lot. So having a consistent group of friends that you grow up with, or like a large group of friends, is something that they never had. So building those relationships with people and having like a group dynamic that you're comfortable with and that you're familiar with was a skill that they never developed. So whenever we get together and hang out, in like group dynamics, whatever, they always had a really hard time managing those group like politics, I guess. Because it's just like a shifting of power, like who's the alpha of the group. And so they always were very reserved and had trouble contributing to the group, because a lot of just group dynamics do come off very assertive, and when you're not used to that, it's very off-putting.
Especially if you're new to the group, though. I mean, that was the big thing for me, because some of the people that were attending these things were stand-up comedians that I met when I first got into stand-up comedy in Malaysia back in 2009. But by 2013, I wasn't performing stand-up comedy anymore. And so a lot of the people that were there had no idea who I was, right? And so it was, and I'd kind of distanced myself from people. So it was like, and I was feeling out of touch, I guess, and not really knowing how to kind of fit in at that time. But I can be more comfortable in group settings once I've gotten to know the people better. I'm thinking like I had a similar situation this past Saturday night. I went to an improv show and a whole bunch of people hung out at a bar afterwards. And for a while, I was just sitting there and just listening and not really contributing until someone that I'm friends with kind of became available because the person he was talking to someone else. So it was like, oh, suddenly I can I can talk to this person now, and then I was able to have that. I have my in. So that worked out, but like it's hard for me to contribute when there's a lot of people contributing to the same conversation at once, I feel like.
Interesting.
Mm.
Yeah. So thanks. This is a bit of a tricky one actually for me. Prior to me falling ill, I was very extroverted. Like I would say to a fault, where people would actually tell me like you might want to, to simmer it down a little bit because when I was in the US, I was very outgoing. I was always that asshole in the group that will always talk first, that would do something first, and it was great because in many ways I didn't have a fixed group. Wherever I went, that was the group. Do you know what I mean? So like I could diversify myself and not have a problem, and it was wonderful. It was great, and you got to see people kind of come out of their own shell and act in a way that they wouldn't normally act. So in that sense, I really, really enjoyed it. But at the same time, after I fell ill, my mindset shifted. I mean, aside from dealing with my own inadequacies, really not not being as physically strong as I once was, and I think I was telling Dominica this as well. Like I had a lot of issues because when I came back, I wasn't mobile. I was still in my wheelchair and I couldn't really go out and about. And I remember I messaged all of my friends in Malaysia when I came back home saying, "Hey, I hope you're doing well. But if you have a moment, maybe half an hour, 1 hour, whatever you could." Mind you, this is pre video calling. So I was like, if you have a moment, please like drop by. I would be extremely humbled and forever in your debt. And I think maybe a handful out of 100 people showed up, and that kind of like shut me back. But it really does depend on your kind of social circle at the time. So it depends on how your role fits. So it's one of those kind of things.
I feel that.
Mm-hmm.
Pre-video calls though is maybe you weren't doing video calls at the time, but I was doing video calls like 10 14 years ago.
Right,
well, we get it. You were the forefront of technology.
Yeah,
no, like like I was doing video calls with people when I moved to California, right? I was doing video calls when I was living in Malaysia and had long distance relationships with people in the US. Okay, so that's over 10 years ago.
Well, no, because like I think back then, I mean, obviously it was still a very much a nouveau niche kind of form of telecommunication, whereas with COVID, everyone was forced to embrace it, weren't they? It wasn't just video, it wasn't just voice calling for work and pleasure. Video calls is now the new norm. So I think personally that's great. I mean, now everyone will get used to it, and it's become the norm now. I like actually now that I think about it, very few people like do like voice calls now at all compared to before. So.
That's true. Well, it's easier for me to concentrate if I can see the person, even if I'm not like making eye contact because I'm autistic. So like I don't need to see them, see the like eyes. But no, that's so uncomfortable. No, I can't.
Get even closer to one eye, yeah.
So I can't. But like I have one Malaysian friend who doesn't have or doesn't use a webcam, and so I do have just a voice call with him kind of semi-regularly, and but it's still on Discord. It's not like on my phone.
Something's better than nothing, so yeah, that'll do.
Yeah. All right.
Next question.
Next question. Look, I was thinking it too. All right. Here we go.
I always think of this in terms of like edit points. Where are we going to edit the scene?
Well, that's the improviser in you.
That's how we navigate conversations. Like,
Sure.
where's the edit point?
Yeah. Well, this is like a 3-part question. Okay.
Ooh.
Very, very interesting, actually. What's your relationship to screens, and in parentheses, social media, gaming, TV, etc.? What benefits do they offer you, and what other impacts do they have on you?
Oh my.
Next question.
I'm feeling that this is maybe is it too personal for you?
What do you think?
What was that, Sharad?
What do you think?
What do I think?
Mm-hmm.
Do you really want me to skip to another question?
I mean, this is the show that asks the hard questions, right?
Yep. But I did say if you don't want to answer something, then that's fine. Sharad and I can still answer it if you don't want to.
Yeah.
No,
You're just thinking
We
about it.
we can give you the question like who is your daddy and what does he do? We can do all kinds of different questions.
Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina.
Really?
Those are the only 2 quotes I know from that movie.
Yeah. It's not a tumor. It's not a tumor.
Put that cookie down.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm trying to think if I bought that movie on DVD. Anyway.
Nobody say the name of the movie.
I know. Anyway, my relationship to screens, it varies. I feel like, obviously, I use them a lot, but it depends on how invested I am in a particular thing at the time. Like, I have gone months without watching anything on streaming, even with paying for Netflix, for example. I'm like, what? I just a couple of months ago, or a few months ago, whenever it was, that Netflix got rid of the tier that I was on, and they were like, we were gonna bump you up to the $14.90 or like $15.95 or something like this, And I was like, I'm not fucking paying that much for Netflix when there are some months that I don't even use it, right? So I went down to the ad tier, and now I'm watching it like all the time. But that's because I'm unemployed, and I'm binging anime shows with my daughter. So so we got through Demon Slayer, as I mentioned earlier. We're watching Death Note at the moment. We're watching 4 episodes a day, and then in the meantime, I'm also finally making my way through Better Call Saul. So I'm watching a lot right now, but it's because I'm unemployed. I'm looking for work too, in case the idiot is watching this. I'm doing that too, but I have more time on my hands. I'm not. I have a video game that I'm playing with my kids at the moment, but it depends on whether they're both interested in playing it at the same time, or not. And so we haven't been playing it as much since I've been spending so much time binging anime with my daughter. But we have 1 day left of Death Note episodes. We've got 5 episodes left, which we'll finish tomorrow. So maybe we'll go back to the video game that we were playing after that. So I can't spend all day every day, with my media entertainment stuff. So I kind of switch back and forth between whether it's video games or TV, movies, that sort of thing. I don't like my relationship with social media. It's very distracting and addictive, and I find myself just scrolling when I don't even have any reason to. So I keep looking for better excuses to not be doing that, because I'm not even interacting with people. I'm just scrolling. So yeah, I guess that's
What are the other two parts of the question?
I answered those questions. That's parts two. So, what benefits do they offer you, and what other impacts do they have on you?
Gotcha.
Yeah. So the benefits is, well, there's the social aspect. I definitely appreciate when I'm able to use my screens to interact with friends from other parts of the world, like right now. That's a massive benefit for me. Like, as someone who grew up in Australia and then moved to Malaysia and lived there for 5.5 years, and now I live here, and then having met a lot of people through improv festivals, which is how I met Mike. We met in Honolulu.
Nice.
I went over as a solo performer who would join.
Did we meet in Alaska or did we meet in?
No, it was in Honolulu.
Hawaii?
It was when you directed the solo improv team. So I didn't know anybody else that I was working with, and you directed us, which is 2016, I believe.
Right. That was the the Kumakahua Theater. Yeah. I remember that. But
Yeah, and
were
we did
you not also in Alaska?
Yes, but that was after that. Because I met Eric at that same festival.
Right.
Yeah. Because he was also there. So yeah, so we've met at a couple of different festivals. But I've met a lot of improvisers from different parts of the world because of festivals. So it's great to be able to connect with people from all over the world as a result of screens and the internet and video functionality.
What is the comedy scene like in Alaska?
I'll have to get Eric. No, Eric doesn't do these kinds of things. This was in Juneau, which is the state capital, and they are not doing their improv festival anymore. So Eric was the guy who ran the festival. It was a great festival.
Favorite festival. I went every year, except for one.
Why are they doing it anymore?
Burnout.
So Eric was basically the only person producing the festival. Like, he had a team of people.
But he was essentially a one-man show.
Yeah.
He what?
He was like a one-man show, pretty much.
Kind of, yeah.
I think other people who were helping him kind of moved away, and either from improv or from Juneau itself. So you know, then it would have really been up to just him at that point.
And then, I mean, granted, yeah, he was getting burned out, but all the other people were also kind of getting burned out, and it just put that much more work on Eric's plate. And yeah, he just, and you know, do you know Tim Mahoney?
Mm-mm.
He and I were talking about trying to revive it and produce the festival for him.
Wow.
But I think that was it was too heartbreaking for him to let go. He realized that at some point Tim and I would also have to let go, and then he would go through that heartbreak all over again. So just not worth it.
Yeah, that's fair. A lot of the festivals have gone away since the pandemic as well.
Yup.
Yeah.
Have either of you two been to Alaska since the pandemic, though?
Mm-mm.
Oh, I would love to go. I'd love to go.
Eric, the guy who produced the festival, does come down here somewhat semi-regularly. So I've hung out with him like 2 or 3 times in the past year, just because he keeps coming down here. Yeah.
That's cool.
Every time he comes through New York, because he never stops in New York, he's just always passing through on his way to Europe. We never have time to get together, and I don't have time to go out there. So it's just getting married is it changes your life, changes your schedule.
Yes. Yes, it does. And I'm sorry, I'm glad that I'm not anymore. But you know, I'm sure I've not met your wife, Mike. I'm sure she's lovely. My ex-husband was not. So I have a very
mean, that's-
different perspective on marriage.
No, of course. Well, I mean, like, you just married an asshole. But also, like, there's other people out there who are wonderful, and there's other people out there who are completely terrible. And not all relationships are meant to be forever, and
Mhm.
some people are just not meant to be in relationships. Period. So it's, we live in a society full of shoulds. There's a lot of shoulds that we live with, and I don't know, people get pigeonholed into doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing just because that's what
I'm not against marriage as an institution. It would be nice to find somebody that I felt like I could trust that much again. I thought I had that last year, and things didn't work out, so I'm still kind of learning to better trust my instincts and better speak up for myself in situations where it's challenging to speak up, because not everyone is capable of learning the skills to have a successful relationship, or if they're capable, they're not interested in doing it at a particular time or whatever. So,
Yep.
some people just shut down.
I mean, Kim and I didn't get married until, geez, well, I mean, it was only 3 years ago, but I was 39 when we got married, and she was like 42. So, I mean,
How long were you together for before you made that decision to get married?
we met. So Kim is a former student of mine.
Oh.
But yeah, I put her at arm's length, and I was like, nope, I am not. I may be attracted to you, but I am not going to go down this road because I do not want to lose my job. And at the time, like, you don't know it's going to be a sure thing. At the time, it's just, hey, this could be a fun fling, right? I didn't know it was going to be forever. So I was like, nope, And then she wasn't my student anymore, and she invited the entire level 1 class to go march in the 2019 Pride Parade and pass out condoms for Trojan. And we're like, everyone was like, that sounds so cool, but I'm not available. And I was like, I'll do it. Yes, please. You're not my student anymore, so yeah, we can hang out outside of the classroom. And that ended up being our first date. That was our first date, marching in the 2019 Pride Parade. So after that, yeah, we started dating pretty seriously. And then I proposed in December of 2020. So we dated for about a year and a half, and then I proposed, and then we didn't get married until October 1st, 2021. So yeah, we dated for about 2 years, a little over 2 years before we got married.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
How did you propose, Mike? Please, just please.
I'll send you the video.
Okay, all right, cool.
Wait.
What?
Go ahead. No, I think I might have seen the video if you shared it.
There's a legit video. It's called Mission Improposable. Yeah, I'll send you the link. So
Cool.
basically the idea was that so I proposed on Christmas Eve.
Nice.
And like most families, children get to open one present the night before Christmas. So I figured, hey, like this will be a good gambit. And she won't have any idea that something's coming. So I decided to play a game with the entire family. Everybody was in on it except for Kim. the gambit was, one of Santa's naughty elves has left the North Pole and taken one of your Christmas presents from underneath the tree and has hid it somewhere around the house. And so this elf has left clues as to where your gift is. So Kim knew that this was, happening. So she actually helped me write the clues as to where the presents were going to be hidden around the house. And I told everybody, pull out your phones, let's film this whole thing. And so I got all this footage from my brother and my sister-in-law, from Kim herself, from my mom. I was like running around with my phone. And I made like this whole like pre-recorded video in the style of Mission Impossible. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to decipher the clue and find your Christmas present. Bring it back here and open it with your family, right? So as soon as the game started, I went downstairs and through the back door outside where I had already set up a whole bunch of Christmas lights in the trees and made like this little grove, right? It was dark, obviously. So I had to like run outside, plug the lights in because I couldn't have them already pre-plugged in because she would know something was up. So I turned all the lights on. I went out there, grabbed the ring, and Kim's clue, Kim was the only one who had 2 clues. So her first clue led her to the front porch, and the second clue led her to the backyard. Now, what I had not planned for was that it started raining and sleeting that evening. And so I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? Because like the grove that I had set all the lights up in out back, there was like a little divot in the ground, so all the rain had pooled right there, and there was just like this big muddy mess. So in addition to a clue on the front porch that led Kim to the backyard, I also had to leave a flashlight and galoshes and an umbrella. Anyway, so she came to the back and she goes, like very jokingly, "Are you my present?" And so I said, "Your mission, should you choose to accept it." That's actually how I proposed to my wife. Your mission, should you choose to accept it. And then I got down, well, kind of on one knee, and then opened the box. Of course, I like had cameras in the trees and I filmed the whole thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it was fun.
It'd been funny if she just went, no! And just like licked it.
I would have respected her so much for that.
Yeah, the hustle for that.
Yeah. Slap me in the face. How dare you?
I remember watching. I remember watching the video now. My dad has just left an incredibly long comment on Facebook. I feel like if I click on it, it's gonna cover the entire screen. Like I don't know how it. I was just gonna click on it just to see how it shows up. Let's see. I feel like it's gonna be like.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't even do the whole
very
thing.
interesting and challenging conversation. It keeps bringing up a core statement I keep trying to balance my own life around. Everything can be reduced to fear and love, and fear is not real. My standard for love is God. God is creative source.
Yeah, I'm gonna read it from the chat thing.
Yeah, read it from the chat. Yeah.
God is creative source and behind all creation, especially in all human beings. Therefore, all human beings have love imprinted into them. That being the case, I am not against any individual at a hate level. He's probably been writing this since I talked about him earlier in the stream. No matter who they are, deserves to be loved because that love is in them. Kind of the point behind the Constitution that says all men are created equal. Equal how? Not intelligence, giftedness, or most things I can think of. Only one thing fits. That one thing is this standard love that exists in humanity. Now I come to fear. Fear is also in all life. Its purpose is to protect life. Fear to me has been distorted and seems connected to this concept of sin, which is mostly misunderstood. just for context, my dad is Catholic. I was
Right.
raised in the Catholic faith, and I do not identify as such myself anymore. Sin originally is a target word in archery, meaning to miss the target. Therefore, most of my issues and problems are related to my fears. Dom, in mentioning how I justify one person as okay, is Dom's misperception of me. Okay, look, I misperceived my own dad.
Tell us how you feel, Frank.
That's okay. Parents and children naturally have misperceptions of one another. Those misperceptions are missing the target, missing the love/God aspect of the other. It is why I say I am a sinner. I am full of misperceptions. Those create division and separation. Because I care for individuals, I also carry deeper fears of hurting them, because growing up, I felt I caused hurts and still carry the pain of hurting others. He hasn't finished yet, but I just want to comment on that. I also have a lot of that same fear of hurting people I care about. It's one of the reasons I stayed in my marriage for as long as I did, because I didn't want to hurt him by leaving him. Anyway,
I think that's a very human thing to feel.
Okay, back to my dad said, this limits me being able to talk about the difference between loving and caring for the individual and believing that God has also placed boundaries or natural consequences that put us out of order with love. Our fears are the clash points because it takes great courage to confront fears, especially clashing fears. Fears end up leaving us feel separated. We end up in limbo, maybe even in hell. These two are beliefs worth questioning, but looking at the work being done with human trauma, it seems all connected, yet not simply solved. I am getting long-winded. Yep. And unclear, so time to stop. It's taken a lot to just share this. Thank you, Dad, for sharing your thoughts. I do appreciate it. I know we do have a lot of differences of opinion, but I also am very aware that my dad still cares about me very much, despite those differences of opinions. And you know, I made that comment about my dad earlier in the stream, and then afterwards I was like, oh, I bet my dad's going to watch this later if he wasn't already watching it right. Because my dad has been supporting and watching, watching the things that I've been sharing. So, yeah.
You may have noticed that halfway through reading your dad's comment, I picked up my phone. And I hope that didn't come off as, oh, I'm disinterested in what your father has to say. I was hooked on his
definition of sin.
Yes, exactly. And while it took a little finding, because if you just Google definition of sin, of course it comes up with all like the classic religious definitions. I was unaware of the connection of the word sin to archery. I've never heard that before. I don't know if either one of you had, but I find that so fascinating that it's not like, I don't consider myself a religious person, but I am religious adjacent. I don't discount organized religion. I feel like there's something there. I don't know what it is, but I feel like there's something there. So I'm still religious adjacent, but the whole concept of sin, like the word sin, has become such a taboo. It's almost become a dirty word in more liberal circles, people who don't practice religion. It's, how dare you tell me that I'm doing something wrong? Like, I don't answer to anyone but myself and whatever higher being exists. And while that may be true, I do very much appreciate the framing of sin as you just missed the target. It's not bad. Like human beings have put the term bad on it, but it's, you just missed the target. Try again.
I guess
Yeah.
I'm more inclined to use the word mistake than sin, which is, in this context, the way he's describing it is probably more like I would be more likely to use the word mistake. And that's, one of the reasons I keep coming back to that is improv. Like one of the improv tenets that I live by is mistakes are gifts, right?
Yeah.
Anytime I make a mistake, I try to find the lesson. Like, what is it that I need to learn here?
Yeah. It's a great point.
Yeah.
What was the question?
No, I think we've moved on. I think we've kind of moved on from that question.
I haven't answered it, but I will give a very brief synopsis. I love my screens. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't watch television. It's how Kim and I unwind at the end of the day. It's how I wake up in the morning. I have my routine. I wake up, I pour myself some caffeine. I sit and watch whatever program it is that I'm going to sit down and watch. My phone screen, social media, I both love and dislike how active I am on social media. Pros and cons. It's just a part of our lives. Like, the world has changed. I don't think that there's anything wrong with screens, but as an improv teacher who teaches people how to communicate better, there needs to be an emphasis on interpersonal relationships, and I feel like we've distanced ourselves from that. The YouTube comment section is a gift, and it is a cesspool at the same time.
Yeah.
It's a toilet. Like, and those two things can exist simultaneously. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't think that applies. I think that I think we've become comfortable with becoming dicks to each other because we have that distance.
Right.
If I don't like you, guess what I can do?
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's so easy, you just disappear.
But I have very strong feelings about this because it's so closely connected to the being ghosted on, right? That disappearance, right? It can be so painful when someone that you were intimately close to does that to you. I feel like it's less of a big deal if it's not somebody that you are close to, but just the screens make it easier. The distance makes it easier to just cut people off in that kind of way. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to do this particular kind of topic for a live stream and have these kinds of conversations, is because I really genuinely feel like we're missing so much because people are not having those, vulnerable face-to-face kind of conversations anymore. And I know this is still distance, right, with across different time zones, so many different time zones right now. And to Mike's point about improv, when I moved to California and started getting into improv, I was using screens less because I was doing a lot more of that in-person connection through improv, and I found a community here, and I was like, suddenly I didn't need that was one of the reasons I distanced myself from my Malaysian friends. It was like, well, I have a community here now. I'm not online as much, so I don't have as much time to reach out and connect to my connections in other parts of the world. Now, the other piece of it was, being ghosted by one of my closest Malaysian friends. And I was like, well, I guess I should let him keep the friends and get used to this community here, which was, in hindsight, a poor decision on my part. Like I should have stayed in touch with my friends in Malaysia, which is why I was glad that the pandemic afforded me that opportunity to kind of reconnect with people online. And that's what created these kinds of opportunities for me to have live streams with friends from different parts of the world.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good thing, because obviously it makes you go out of your comfort circle, like, pop that bubble. Because even if, let's say, with TV, for example, just by me going by my own personal experience, when I fell ill, as I mentioned, part of what happened to me was short-term memory loss. Every 3 minutes, I would fall asleep, I'd wake up, and I have no idea what's going on. And believe it or not, it wasn't occupational therapy or a different kind of therapy that helped. It was actually watching TV. Because I would watch TV, and my doctors and my family would test me. They'd be like, okay, so in the previous episode, who killed who? And who's this person doing this? And what's this person's motivation? And that's how I started to remember. After months of nothing, it actually started to work. And that was fantastic. And in terms of social media, I actually think it's, as you were saying, it's a good and a bad thing. Bad thing because you're sat behind this protection and anonymity of a screen, and you can say horrible things you would never say to anyone in real life, right? But at the same time, we have this access now where I can speak to someone in Timbuktu just like that. And that's incredible. And the world's a lot smaller, yes, but it means that we've got this access we've never had before. So it is both a pros and a cons thing.
I mean, just think about the magic that is happening right now. I was born in the 80s. I grew up in the 90s. So at that time, making a phone call outside of your immediate city, you didn't do. Long distance phone calls were expensive.
Super
my
expensive,
mother, I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, but my mother was from Utah. So it's a difference of 2,000 miles. And anytime that my mom wanted to call her sisters or her own mother, that was an expensive phone call. So it didn't happen. It was special occasions, right? Because we didn't have this technology. Now we've been talking for 2 hours. We have Malaysia, San Francisco, and New York City all on the party line. Mm-hmm. When in human history has this ever been available? Never.
Yeah.
This technology only became possible in our lifetimes, which is a blip. It's crazy.
But I think it's a great thing, because it's not just changing communication; it's changing everything. Like I don't know if you two have seen the name's kind of blanking right now. It's like a horror movie where people are in this kind of group chat. It's filmed exactly like this, and then stuff starts happening to each person.
Missing?
Maybe. I'm not quite sure.
Missing was a great film.
Yeah, and like that blew my mind. I was like, and everything now is changing, where we all have these different mediums and thinking outside your bubble, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question.
Ready to keep going? Okay. I don't know
I think I've got about one more in me.
Okay. We'll do one more question then, and we'll see. Let's
pick a spicy one.
Ooh. It could be spicy depending on how you interpret it. Ooh.
All right, let's hear it.
When do you feel like you're at your most lovable? When do you feel like you're at your most capable of loving others? Do you want to interpret it the spicy way?
I mean, we could do on the surface and then after hours adults only chat.
Ooh, my dad is watching.
Gear up.
No, it's fine. Like he watched my baby reindeer stream where I was talking about my sex life, so he's clearly not. He's fine with it, I guess. I am not going to start though.
Mike, what about you?
When am I at my most lovable? And then what was the other one? When
you
am I able
feel
to
like
offer
you're
love?
at your most capable of loving others.
That's an interesting question.
I think before
I'm-
you answer, I just want to say I feel like your interpretation of this answer will probably be different than how your friends would answer this about you.
Sure.
Fair.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm a caretaker. When other people are in need, especially those close to me, it's almost like there's no decision. There's no choice to be made. Somebody needs help. Excuse me. Somebody needs help, and I am able to offer that care. And it's a joy. It's a joy that I'm able to provide that service, so to speak. However, however that manifests, right? Case in point, one of the things I do for Kim, almost not every day, but almost every day, is I cook dinner. It's, I went to culinary school. I was able to learn these skills, and it's something that these are skills that I've never used except for when I met Kim and, after we got married. I don't enjoy cooking regularly. Like when Kim's gone, when she's on the road, I don't cook for myself. That's not enjoyable to me. When I had a roommate for 10, 12 years, we lived together for 12 years. I didn't cook for him, and he still hangs it over my head. But it's a service that I get to provide for someone that I love. And that is a joy for me. Like, crisis mode. I like, nobody loves crisis mode, but I handle crisis mode very well in the fact that I go into caretaker mode. What do you need? Because my needs don't matter right now. You need something, and I am 1,000% there for you, whatever that means, however that looks. Here's another story. A couple of years ago, my brother found himself in a hospital in Wyoming and nearly died. And that happened the same weekend that our cat died. And it was the same weekend that I needed to fly to San Diego to attend Comic-Con. I'd spent so much money to go to con in San Diego, and I ended up not being able to go because I had to put my cat down. And then later that afternoon, after we put our cat down, I flew to Wyoming so that I could be with my brother. And then turns out I had to drive him across country because the medical condition would almost killed him. He couldn't get on an airplane, so we had to drive cross country from Wyoming back to Washington, D.C., where he lives. And that was a major imposition. But it was something that, like, even though it sucked that I missed Comic-Con, something that I look forward to every year. Dominica knows this about me. I build elaborate costumes, like big, elaborate, detailed costumes that are not cheap and do not. I can't throw together in a weekend. It takes literal months and months of planning and building. So there was so much preparation that went into this con, and it was yeah, I was bummed that I didn't get to go, but I knew I didn't have a problem with it that I didn't get to go because my family needed me.
Mm.
So when am I most capable of providing love? It's whenever I need to go into caretaker mode. It's not an option. I just do it.
Yeah, I think just to piggy on that, I'm exactly the same way. When I fell ill, um, I felt awful because, obviously, as the youngest person in my family, it's and especially in the Southeast Asian family, uh, we're kind of told that when we get older, our parents retire, they relax, and then we look after them and what have you. Unfortunately, in my case, that didn't happen. They ended up looking after me, particularly my mom, and I felt super guilty. But when I got stronger and I was working and getting more money, nothing gave me a greater sense of not just accomplishment but pride. That I'm going to buy her my mom's groceries today, or I'm going to buy her that new handbag she's been eyeing for a few years but never got around to doing, or like little things like that. Like if my mom wants to go see a show, I'll take her without even her asking. It's just things like that where you kind of contribute. And for me, if I can make someone's day better without it taking away from me, there's nothing better than that. And in some ways, like I remember thinking, is this kind of reverse selfish of me, where I want to do that and because I want to feel good, but then end of the day, though, they feel good, things get done, and there's a sense of accomplishment. There's nothing worse than you just sitting at home going, "I've done fuck all today." You know what I mean? Where in my mind, I think, okay, I made someone's day a little bit better. Job done.
I'm thinking, I feel like that might be how I feel where I'm most lovable, is when I'm doing things for other people and making them feel cared for, or if just spending quality time with people, because quality time is one of my love languages. So being able to give that and sharing my time with, time is so finite, right? So
Yeah.
Sharing that time with people, that's one of my main ways of showing that I care about. So I'm making time for you. But I feel like I'm the opposite for when do I feel like I'm at my most capable of loving others. I need to tend to myself first. If I am in crisis, I am not capable of caring about anyone else. And that's after years of living in trauma and feeling like I am supposed to behave in a particular way, and being told that I need to tend to other people's needs before my own. Like, I got so burnt out because what happened to my needs? When was I going to be taken care of? So I've learned from that, and I'm like, no, I need to make sure that I'm taking care of myself, at least to some extent, before I can show support to other people. Because if I'm in crisis, if I have too much stuff going on, then I'm just not capable of taking care of other people as well. And this is an interesting thing. Like, when earlier this year, I have a therapist that I see pretty much every week, and earlier this year I was feeling like really guilty about my decision to fly back to Malaysia a third time. Like, my trip to Malaysia in May was a result of me trying to get answers after I was ghosted in January. And I'm like, am I just being really selfish right now that I'm trying to go after this thing and to get answers? And my therapist was like, no, you need to do this for your own mental health sake, because otherwise you're not going to be capable of taking care of your kids and looking after the people that you need to look after. And she really put things into perspective for me. And I didn't get the answers I was looking for, but at least I got some answers, you know, and I still got to, you know, reconnect with other friends. You know, Sharad and I hung out for a little bit, came to see a pantomime with me.
Good
some
fun.
other friends.
It was good
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
It's a Cinderella pantomime with one of our friends was the fairy godmother, and cross-dressing. He was he was so fun in that role.
Yeah. I think just to go on what you said, I think that a lot of people don't really understand how strong resolution is.
Mm.
You know, the fact is, if you have this negative impulse in your mind, and it eats away and it eats away and eats away, and you don't come up with that definitive answer, whether it's something that you're expecting or not. But then, in the day, though, if you don't have that will drive you crazy. So the fact that
it was absolutely driving me crazy because I didn't understand like why, because you know he'd ghosted me before, right, 10 years ago, and while I was hanging out with him in January, I made him promise to not disappear on me again, and then he disappeared on me again like 5 days later, and I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Like, I need an explanation for this. I don't understand what happened. And like, because my mind goes into overthinking mode and trying to find answers, like what could I have done differently, how can I make this right, like what can I do to fix this, like that's what my mind goes into.
When you reconnected, did they ever have an explanation as to why they ghosted you the first time?
Yes, and so he knew that he had done the wrong thing, like he felt bad about it. He never reached out to me even when I tried to reach out and reconnected him in 2021. I sent him an email, and he told, like when we reconnected last year in September, because he actually made an effort to come out and see me, right? I didn't reach out to him when I went back to Malaysia last year. He came and joined a dinner that was organized in my honor by somebody who didn't know that he had ghosted me. So he was invited. And so on that night, he told me like he had read the email that I'd sent him in 2021, and he'd said that he had wanted to reply, but had felt like so it was just too hard for him to reply because he like felt guilty and kind of ashamed of how he'd ended things, and so he knew that it was the wrong thing to have done. And I think he just had felt like I'd moved on with my life and I was doing well in my life here in California without him, so he didn't seem to think that I guess he didn't want to interrupt my life during that time, and he just felt really bad about the way that he treated me. So it was just after having that kind of resolution and feeling like he apologized and was repentant for his behavior towards me, just made it really hard for me to understand why he would do that again. Like, you know that this was wrong. What happened, you know? So yeah, I didn't react to it the same way because I'd like when he ghosted me 10 years ago, my reaction was I just sent him a whole bunch of anxious messages because I'm just like, what's going on, like, and I tried to get him to talk to me again, and then I felt bad about myself because I was like, I felt like I was going crazy. I felt like I was too much, like, too overbearing. I didn't, I felt like I was chasing after him, and just like all of this stuff, and like I didn't want to fall into those kinds of behaviors again because I didn't like how I was. That, like, I'm just like, I don't want to be like that again. So like I shifted to other kinds of tactics. I was like, maybe he just needs some space to kind of deal with things on his own, and maybe he'll be fine, he'll come back. And just, I had no idea, right? So yeah, I mean, I got some answers. I didn't get all the answers I was looking for when I went back and confronted him in May. and June 1st was the final time that he and I spoke. Because like when I went back, initially we did kind of hang out in, and we're friendly chatting. But then like at the very end, he's like, no. And it's still painful. And because I feel like when you have that kind of connection, and just cutting someone off like that without an explanation is one of the cruelest things that you can do. And because I'm someone who has suffered from silent treatment and stonewalling as abuse tactics, like as a way to try and get me to fall in line and behave in a particular way. And so it triggers a trauma response in me, regardless of the reason that it happens. Like, even if someone's not doing it for abusive reasons, I'm still going into that kind of trauma response space.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, but now being cut off, I'm like, I got to fix it. I got to make things right. I got to try and make things work again. Like, because like, especially if it's someone who has given me a lot of attention, and like that, again, that external validation, like I want that back. Like I want, give me that attention back. I miss it. And then to have it like just cut off without an explanation is like, it's really hard.
For what it's worth, Dominica, I would never do that to you.
Yeah, but for what it's worth, Sharad, I know he's just joking.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Give this guy all the awards. That's amazing.
I would. Oh, geez, there's a good one. I would like to thank the Academy.
There you go. There you go.
That's what she said.
Yeah. But yeah, like Dominica, just to piggyback on that, one thing that I learned about other people is you can't control them. No matter what you think, no matter how well you know them, you can't control them. And all you can do is you can control yourself. Mm-hmm. What you think, what you do, what you say. And you can extend out as much as you would like to another person, another entity, another group, whatever. If they don't want to act, it's on them. There's only so much you can do. You can't literally grab them and ask them to participate in one way or another, no matter how much you like it. And all you can do, which it sounds like you have done, is you've done your part. If they don't want to meet you halfway, it's on them.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a big thing that I've learned over the years, is that not being able to control other people. I can only control myself and how I react, which is why I decided not to react in the same way that I had previously the last time he ghosted me. It also meant that, and the fact that he had given me a reason for what had happened before, he was like, he told me also that he'd been really overwhelmed with everything that was going on. Like it generally helped me see that it wasn't about me, why he ghosted me before. So when he had given me that explanation, I could understand that him ghosting me again wasn't about me. It didn't have anything to do with my worth. And I could still latch on and hang on to the fact that he cared about me. Like, he genuinely liked me as a person. So what happened was a result of his own insecurities and fears and whatever was going on in his head. Like, I knew that he suffered from depression, so I knew that it was likely he got in his head about something and it was too hard for him to kind of communicate that to me. So I didn't take it as personally as I did the previously, but that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Like, you can still tell yourself those things, but it still hurts, right?
You're only human, so
yeah.
Next question.
You really up for another question? You're up for another question?
I mean, I've got as is the old adage, I can't go anywhere. I can't get up because I have a cat in my lap. So.
It is late in New York. Where is it? Right after almost 1 a.m. So I'm being
12 to 1.
Yeah. Well,
Oh dear. Okay.
Yeah.
But look, Mike has his own sleep schedule, I guess. Not
true.
everyone has to go to bed at a particular time.
Plus, I'm on vacation for the next 4 days. So
Nice.
Well, see,
Nice.
so that helps. So I asked you at a good time then to join. Because I think the last few times I've asked Mike to join things, he's been
I
busy.
haven't.
So
Yeah.
like I asked him to join for the movie stream and he wasn't available. And I think the
Right.
last time I asked him to join a stream was like a couple of years before that. And like he
No, it hasn't been 2 years.
seriously,
You
I
lie.
started doing my Lego live streams in 2021.
Yeah, when did you finish Avengers Tower?
Did you
Because
join me for
I was there for Avengers Tower. I was there for Spider-Man, the
No.
Bugle, the Daily
Avengers
Bugle.
Did you join me for an Avengers Tower stream?
I joined you at least once for Avengers. I did a whole bunch on the Daily Bugle, but I was there at least
Avengers
once for
Tower
Avengers Tower.
was the beginning of this year.
That's what I'm saying.
Did I really have you on one of those streams? I don't remember
did.
that. Because I thought I just did that with my friend Puppy Zach in Malaysia. Because I bought the set because he wanted me to do it on stream, and it was like, I will join you for these. And then another Malaysian friend, Calvin. I didn't think I had anyone else. How am I not able to remember that? Sure.
Well, there you go.
Maybe I did. Why is my memory that bad?
Next question.
Are we in a different timeline now than what I remember?
We might be.
I feel like that could be the case.
You know, it's funny you say that.
I need to go back and look at my streams and be like, oh, wow, Mike was on this stream. Why do I not? I have no recollection.
So earlier, it's funny you mentioned that about the timeline, because earlier today I was watching the Community episode where they roll the dice.
Yeah.
It's the new timeline every time they roll the dice. So,
hey,
such a good show. Such a good show.
It's wonderful.
I have not watched that one. I guess I'll have to add it to
We know what we know what you're doing tomorrow, then, aren't we?
No, I have Death Note tomorrow, and I still have one more season of Better Call Saul. I should probably finish it before I see
fair enough. Fair enough.
Before I go to Fan Expo. All right, next question. What's at least one thing you have done that took courage? I feel like I already answered this question. That was me going back to Malaysia to confront my ex in May. I was scared out of my mind because obviously I'm like, he's gonna reject me. Like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, the first time I talked to him on that trip in May, I was like, I told him I was so scared coming back here to try and talk to you about this, but I still came. So that's one thing. Another thing, my divorce, that took a lot of courage.
Oh man.
Yeah. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Dobby, I think your balls are definitely bigger than ours. Like, we wouldn't be able to.
Okay, and here's the thing that gets me to do things that I'm afraid of, and it is another improv tenet that I follow, and that is follow the fear. If I'm afraid of it, but I really want to do it, or it needs to be done, I got to do it anyway.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think for me, buddy, hey, stop. He's getting in my wife's purse. That's not for you.
As long as he doesn't take a shit in it, you'll be fine.
Oh, honey.
Meow, 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 meow.
Talk about a meow mix.
Yeah.
Yeah, so previously I mentioned that I grew up in a very, very religious family,
Yeah.
community. So that's your identity growing up, or at least it was for me. And I had so much pride, and I took a lot of pride in being kind of like the image that everyone taught me I should be, right? So I tried to be the good kid that that never made bad decisions, right? Never do this, never do that. Well, this might come as a shock to you because I know people in the world, the vast majority of people throughout the world do not perform this act, but I like to masturbate. I know. Not many people do. I'm one of the rare few that partake in this.
That's what she
In
said.
this.
That's what
Hey. And in addition to this, it's not just the act of rubbing one out, but it is what I'm currently looking at that gives me inspiration. I watch porn. So,
I honestly thought you were gonna say something weird like I watched The View, and that's how you do it.
ooh, that Whoopi Goldberg just gets me going.
Oh, when you pull those dreads. Oh,
Just feed me lines from The Associate. I don't know, whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, so this waned on my conscience so severely. Like, like I couldn't let it go. And it got to the point that I threw myself under the bus to our local bishop, and I was like, "Look,
Wow.
I'm a sinner. Not just like, oh, I'm a sinner, but like I've done something terrible." And like I really beat myself up over it for a very, very long time, to the point that there's duties and responsibilities and uh, uh, permissions that are given to you, uh, and that I no longer felt worthy of. So it was difficult enough for me to come clean to myself and to my bishop, but it was sitting down with my mom, and because it kind of I will forego the specificity as to why I told her at this particular time, but let's just say it was very embarrassing. She didn't catch me rubbing one out or anything, but it was,
I
yeah.
wouldn't have thought so when it was a thing that you had to actually tell her.
I caught her.
Genuinely, I'm
No.
afraid of my kids
No.
catching me at some point. I'm like, make sure it's my door locked.
Yeah.
Make sure you
Go
count as
see
well.
your father this weekend. Yeah.
I say
So
as I know my dad is watching this. I'm
Oh,
but I felt so terrible that like there was something that my mother wanted me to do that revolved around like the religious world, and I freaked out, and the whole family was like, "What is his deal?" And so I went into the bathroom and just cried, and my mom came in and she was like, "Everything okay?" And I was like, "No." And so I was like, it all came out, and I was terrified for being judged. I was terrified of being not being. I was embarrassed by not for doing the act, but for not feeling like I was worthy to do to go along with the duties and responsibilities that I felt like I had been entrusted to do. And that was terrifying to me. But it was something that it needed to happen. So, yep.
Wow.
I mean, now I look back on it and I'm like, oh, well, it's such small potatoes. But at the time, it was everything.
No, I
Yeah.
get it. Like, this is kind of harkening back to what I said earlier about my, looking for validation and stuff from my mum. Your story kind of reminded me of something else I wrote about in that same blog post recently. I had to tell both of my parents when I lost my virginity. Did not want to, but the reason I had to was because my aunt had found out, and she said that she would tell my parents if I didn't tell them first.
There's a word that I'm thinking of. It's 4 letters, and it starts with a C.
She's a bit of a see you next Tuesday. Yeah.
You might feel differently. That's how I feel.
I understand where it was coming from. She was, someone who was a bit of a wild child in her youth. So I think she was doing it to try and prevent me from following the path that she had gone down in her youth. So I was not like that. I was 21. Okay. I was like, when this happened, like, I was perfectly old enough to be making my own decisions. There was none of my parents' business. Who cares? Right. And this was around the same time that my mum was sick with cancer and dying. And like, I'm just like, what the fuck? My dad probably remembers me having to I felt more comfortable talking to my dad about it than my own mum, right? And you would think that it would be easier to talk to the same gender parent. You would think. But for me, I felt like, because at the time my parents were separated, and had been for years. They separated when I was 9, so like 12 years beforehand. And my dad had left the church at that point. I don't think he was as closely following the religious practice and that sort of thing. Still believed in God, but not like as closely following things. So for me, I felt like he would be less judgmental, because he had been more open to talking about, those kinds of conversations. It was super uncomfortable for me to have those conversations with him, but he was more open to having those kinds of conversations. It was much harder. I felt like my mum was a lot more strict about sex stuff. So I was like, ugh. And I honestly do not even remember how she reacted to it when I told her. Maybe it was fine. Maybe she had a really big reaction that I am so traumatized that I don't remember it. Like, I genuinely don't know. It was more traumatic for me, I think, that for me to actually remember the fact that how hard it was for me to even have the courage to talk to her and tell her about it in the first place.
It's a big deal.
No.
It's a big deal.
But I was fucking 21. Like, who cares?
You were 21. I was 27.
Oh God.
When I
lost my virginity.
No. How old were you when you had that conversation?
The conversation, I was like 24, I think. I was still in my 20s.
That's still, that was
23, something like that. Yeah, but no, I didn't lose my virginity until 27.
Oh wow! Good for you, man.
Is it?
depends on like that's not as young as not as old as some people. I having taken somebody's virginity, they were 32. So you are not that's don't think it's super old.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Ooh, pardon me. I was really looking forward to at least waiting until I was 30 or 31 so that I could write a book called The 30-Year-Old Virgin.
That's awesome.
Wait, when did 40-Year-Old Virgin the movie come out?
2002, I think it was.
I think it was later because I was living in Ireland in 2002, and I believe, now again, correct me if I'm wrong, look it up.
2005. 2005.
There it is.
There you go.
I was in college when it came out.
Yeah, me too.
Sharad, while we're on the topic, if you're comfortable, when did you lose your virginity?
That's a very tricky question. Well, let's say I lost mine when I was pretty young. I was 15 at the time. So
that's what felt normal when I was in school.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I feel like that's what everybody was doing.
Yeah. And but yeah, I mean, it wasn't a big thing. Obviously, in my mind, it was like, oh, but
Well, of course, yeah.
But looking back on it, I was like, oh, that poor girl. That's probably like the worst 40 seconds she's ever had in her entire life. But no, I mean, like it is weird, and like put it this way, it was like it was a very, for me, it was very kind of American movie-esque because it was at our it was at our prom afterwards, so it was very kind of which was fine. But yeah, I mean, like thankfully now it's. I mean, back then it was obviously considered to be quite taboo, but obviously nowadays it's just whatever, isn't it? So there's no real issue.
I think nowadays, from what it seems like, people are losing their virginity later. I think Gen Z is losing it later because they have learned more sex education in terms of consent culture and that sort of thing. So
That's
people
fair.
are, unless they, are the ones that are being taught abstinence education. Maybe they're not as much like, but I feel like the culture these days is it's more okay to be putting it off. But then also that I feel like that generation is more scared of relationships. So they're just not even trying. Like that's what it seems like from what I've kind of gathered. Not that I pay attention to a lot of that sort of thing.
Well, I think the best kind of analogy for that really is if you burn your hand touching a stove one time, the next time that happens, the next time you go to a stove, you're going to touch it again. It's like that kind of mindset. It's like if you know there's going to be an outcome, would you do the same thing again? So
yeah, and there's a lot of rejection these days, and I think especially since the Me Too movement, I think that a lot of people are a lot more cautious nowadays, especially younger ones. Like they don't want to get caught up in being accused of things.
Yeah,
good.
For the best.
No, it's absolutely. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but like from our days, when we're in our youth, I feel like we didn't have that same kind of upbringing, so it wasn't.
No, sex was something to be conquered. If you were male, sex was something to be conquered. And I don't know, you probably have a different perspective from a female perspective, but it was a badge of honor for guys, which is completely unfair and unbalanced.
I don't know if I would have lost my virginity earlier had guys been interested in me in high school. I can't answer that. Like I certainly was interested, but nobody wanted to get with me. So like that was what one of the things that put me off. I did like the first time somebody kind of expressed any of that kind of interest in me, I was 17, so I could have done it then, and I chose not to. I just had my first kiss with this guy. because I wanted something a little bit more substantial at the time. But he did end up being the person I lost my virginity to. And I was actually 20 at the time. I was 21 that I had when I had to tell my parents. But I was 20 when I lost it to the same person that I had my first kiss with at 17. We were not in a relationship. It wasn't like any romantic kind of story. He was full on using me. It's not a
Classic
happy
story.
Yeah. That old chestnut. Okay.
Yeah, he was.
Oh, whoever heard this one before?
He
Tell
was.
it, sweetheart. Yes.
Yeah.
No, he was a cheater. He was like 11 years older than me, like all of this kind of thing. But you know, back in those days, I was like, oh, like this older guy is attracted to me. I must be like worth something, you know, because that external validation thing that I,
Yeah.
you know, sought after
Yeah.
because I had low self-worth.
No, I think that's okay. Like in my experience, when girls go for older guys, it's because they want that experienced figure. Or else with the guy, he wants a girl that doesn't have the baggage.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, so there is a bit of give and take.
Let me put a question out there. Is there anything wrong with receiving validation through sex?
Yes.
So we have one yes, one no.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just posed the questions. I don't
No,
know.
I have a thought on it. I say
I
this.
don't know. I'm on the fence, to be honest.
For me, from my experience, when I have sought validation through sex, it is deeply unsatisfying. It doesn't actually get the validation that I'm looking for.
Sharad.
I think it's very tricky. Sorry, Dominica. I think it's tricky for each of us because obviously for women, in my experience, women seek that emotional connection. Men, not so much. So it's very different, as you were saying. Like, you know, when guys do are able to get that, it's like this huge accomplishment. You know, like we were able to wear her down and like we're the alpha giga chad and what have you. But like nowadays, it's understandable that when you get older, you kind of want more. So it does it doesn't.
I think that the validation that you get through sex, it doesn't last. And so then you're continuously chasing after it. And then because it doesn't last, you just keep chasing it. Because the kind of validation that you get is more just like, oh, this person is attracted to me in this particular moment. But if then they ditch you afterwards because it's like a one night stand or whatever, it's like, well, that was fleeting. And now I don't have that validation anymore. It's gone. Now, if the validation that you're getting is within a long-term relationship, that's very different, right? So I guess like with everything, one of the things I always say to my kids is it depends on the context. So what is the context in here? If you're seeking for validation for your self-worth, it's not going to last if it's, you know, a one night stand kind of situation. And I think that's I would think that that's true even in men. I could be wrong because I'm not a man. I've not been through that, but having been with someone who has kind of chased validation through sex and trying to have a string of partners that's like always going after it, I don't think he was ever happy. I don't think it ever made him happy.
What are the pros and cons? Because I'm going to take the good and bad clarifier out. Clarifier? It's late. My brain is working at half speed. I'm going to take the right and wrong, the good, the bad out of it. What are everyone's thoughts on having sex, one night stands, just for fun, hookups?
I think as long as everyone is on the same page and it's what they are looking for, it is fine. I personally cannot do that because I get too attached when I have sex with someone. You know, I'm sorry to keep harping back on this, but my situationship, the guy that ghosted me, like we hooked up last September, and we had no plans for like long, term or anything. It was just like, let's get back together. In this situation, like we didn't have any expectation of it, and I was immediately attached. Like I wanted everything, right? I wanted like afterwards, I essentially proposed marriage to him, not in a like, will you marry me kind of way, but I was like, if we want to make this a long-term thing, and we're citizens of different countries, so we could get married in order for you to move here to the US. Genuinely, straight after we'd just had sex. So that's how attached I get. So I cannot do one night stands. I mean, and I have had like, those kinds of relationships, but I just don't find them as satisfying. So it's not on the cards for me anymore. I can't do them.
That's okay.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. But good for you for knowing what you want and what you don't want. Most people don't ever come to that realization at all.
Yeah.
It's true. What are your thoughts, Sharad?
It's tricky. It's very, very tricky. I think obviously for men and women, we're wired differently, aren't we? So it's tricky because I went through a phase where this is when I was in the US. I kind of had my slutty kind of phase, if you can call it that. And after a while, it almost became mechanical, where there was no pleasure out of it. My body was acting autonomously, but in my mind there was nothing. It was like autopilot. And obviously that's not who you want to be. And so it depends. Obviously, at the end of the day, though, it's just something that you have to develop at your own speed, your own pace. If you want more of an emotional attachment, that can be a thing. If you want something without, it's entirely up to you. But it depends, I think, per person, per circumstance. Sometimes it's if you want to just have whatever, go for it. As long as you're with two or more, how many you'd like consenting adults in there, how about it? So.
I've always wanted to be that person. I've always wanted to be the person that is just so sexually adventurous without any emotional consequences.
Yeah.
So I consider myself very much a chameleon, like a social chameleon, in that I can adapt to almost every situation. And I have a lot of different friends who live their lives very, very differently. So right now I am thinking about a couple of friends who are into the latex world. They host latex parties. They go to latex parties. They're constantly like just oozing sex. And being sexual out in the wild is just who they are. And I find that very attractive. But also, I don't know if I could be that person. I don't know. And at this stage of my life, I don't
You're cool.
Yeah, I'm good. I am good where I'm at. Yeah. But like, yeah, I've one night stands, having the culture of, I'm just gonna find someone to hook up with every night of the week. I think there's something very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Exhausting.
Well, I was going to go the opposite side of the coin. There's something very kind of charming. Maybe charming is the wrong word.
Intoxicating, maybe.
we're beating around the bush. It's in that vicinity somewhere in there. Kind of maybe classy. I don't know if that's it's classy in a very different
Yeah.
very
Classy,
different
it's not.
context.
That's a
Romantic.
Classy, eh?
very different
Romantic.
definition of classy than I have.
I think romantic is it's a very romantic idea that I'm just gonna be with someone different every night. And
It's a
while I
very
was in
bohemian
that,
kind of idea.
it is, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's very attractive. Are you guys familiar? Oh, go ahead, Dominica.
Oh, I was going to say, I just feel like it's a very user mindset to have that kind of attitude of just being like you're just using people if you're just going to go through them like that. Like, I can't imagine that there's that many people in the world that are okay with living that kind of lifestyle.
I live in New York. It's a very different place.
Fine. Maybe this is a result of my Catholic upbringing. I'm just like,
Is anyone familiar with the Coolidge effect?
No.
Has anyone heard of the Coolidge effect before? So this is something. So there was a period of my life that I felt like I was. Oh, Athena. Whatever. If she gets stuck, she gets stuck.
If he dies, he dies.
She's crawling behind the bookshelf. There's like a small gap in between the bookcase and the wall, and she just found this little nook, and if she knocks it over, she knocks it over. Can't do anything about it. Anyway, so when I was in my heyday of feeling guilty for masturbating, I believed that I had an addiction to it. So I started studying like sex addictions and specifically pornography, stuff like that. And I came across a term called the Coolidge effect that I found fascinating, because the Coolidge effect doesn't just apply to sexual situations, it applies to most aspects of humanity. So the story behind the Coolidge effect is former US President Calvin Coolidge. He and his wife were touring a farm somewhere, and his wife made the observation that there's only one rooster per hen house. And the farmer said, well, yeah, you only need one rooster per hen house. The more sexual partners that the male has, it is able to ejaculate more often with more, yes, thank you, can produce more with the more sexual partners that it has, because the more sexual partners, it stimulates the brain. So it's easier to have a higher production rate when the male has multiple sex partners.
Wow.
And so that I was like, that's fascinating. And like, it's so easy to understand why we get addicted to porn, because we look at one video and we swipe to the next, and the endorphins in our brain go, this is stimulating. Now, if you go back to the previous porn video, you're not stimulated by it anymore because you've already seen it, been there, done that. Move on to the next, to the next, to the next, and the next. And so I think that the Coolidge effect is a very fascinating phenomenon, in that part of that is just kind of the way that we're wired, but it also isn't so much about porn as it is about our daily TikTok addictions.
Yeah.
All that kind of
the new
stuff.
thing.
Yeah. What's going to stimulate us? Obviously, we're stimulated by the things that we're interested in, but how much are you going to allow the thing that you're interested in to control your life?
Control you.
Yeah. We got way off topic, but
very interesting. Look, it's as long as we're still having these vulnerable discussions, we're on topic, right? It doesn't need to be always answering the questions from the cards. The cards are there as prompts when we run out of things to talk about.
That's not what I was promised, Dominica.
What?
Who wants to see?
I have other decks of cards, right? Like, I have cards specifically for.
There you go.
Okay, wait. I'm gonna lean it up here. I have. So before I bought the skip the small talk cards, I actually bought these decks of cards with questions in them: intimacy and love language. I bought these. I'll give you the context. I bought these in Malaysia last year, like around the time that I hooked back up with my ex, because I'm like, I want to be able to have these kinds of vulnerable conversations with him, right? Because like, you know, that was because that's one of the things that stimulates me and makes me more interested in having sex with someone, is having those deep, vulnerable conversations. I'm sorry, this does not mean that I want to have sex with both of you. I'm like, I know. What? I can have deep, vulnerable conversations without wanting to have sex with people, but I can't believe
It's okay, Alf. It's okay.
He can watch.
But you know, I mean, we'd had like, yeah, that was one of the things I really liked about my relationship with him, is that we were able to get really deep. But sometimes it was hard to have like specific, you know, bring up specific topics or whatever. So I thought it would be great to get to know. We ended up only using a few cards. I brought them back with me in January. Like, we didn't use them in September.
Well, crack open the intimacy box and let's read a card from the intimacy.
You want a card from this one? All right.
Let's go for it.
There are different categories, so let me know which one you want me to pick from. So we have
the filthiest one.
Okay, let's just. I'm sure there's one that's a sex one. This one is past, relationship, intimacy, life, random, and about you. So intimacy or
intimacy. Let's go for intimacy. Yeah.
Full frontal.
Okay, you wanted a spicy question. Here we go.
There we go.
What do I do?
Go on.
No,
you can't even read it.
No, because you can't. You're not going to be. I will rephrase the question after I read
it. Read word for word.
Okay. What do I specifically do, me? What do I do that turns you on the most? So I think.
Do we have enough time?
First of all, that you'll have to answer the question: do I turn you on? And if so, what is it that I do that turns you on? So if you are not able to answer that question as is, I'm not saying that I don't turn you on. I'm assuming that I don't. But if you're not able to answer that question as is, just let's change it to what turns you on the most.
What turns me on the most? I'm reminded of a quote by Tom Haverford from Parks and Rec, as portrayed by Aziz Ansari. And she's into me, which, in my opinion, is the sexiest quality a woman can have.
Yep.
Honestly,
yeah, probably that.
Yeah, I would say that probably is for me as well. As I wouldn't say I'm like that about, you know, because there's definitely, I've had people attracted to me who I'm not attracted to at all. But having that mutual attraction, absolutely, like knowing that person is attracted to me. So it's like, I'm gonna harp back on the situation. Look, I've written about it. It's fine. He's not paying attention. It's no big deal. But like I talked about how you know, this particular ex that I bought these cards for, we had like the intimate conversation first, but what led to us actually getting in bed together was me refusing to make a move on him and making him tell me that he wanted to kiss me. So me getting the
Power
confirmation,
move.
me getting the
go.
confirmation from him that he wanted it too. Like I knew what I wanted, but did he want it? I needed to know that he wanted it too. I'm like,
So years ago when I was in college, I had this girlfriend who, let's just say that it was a volatile relationship. So we broke up twice. The second time that we broke up, for real, we were on the phone and she said something to me that I'm not going to share over the airwaves, but I will say did not sit with me very well for a very, very long time. It wasn't until years later that I actually dated a therapist and told her about it that the therapist was like, "What? That's not real. That's not a thing." Anyway, from that point on, even even including up to that point, but especially after that conversation, and same thing with Kim, I needed verbal confirmation that even a kiss is consensual. Like that comment scared me so badly, and it got such under my skin so much that I would ask people point blank, is it okay if I kiss you?
yeah.
And it was always 10 out of 10. Yes, of course, kiss me. But yeah, I actually had one person call me out. She was like, Mike, you don't need to ask my permission. And I was like, yes, yes,
Yes, we do.
For you,
Yes,
you
we
did.
do. Yes,
For you,
we
you
do.
did. Yeah. Because
Yes, you do.
because consent can be revoked at any time, right? Like it can. Like so you can have an ongoing relationship with somebody and think things are perfectly fine, and then one day you've changed your mind, and you don't have to verbalize that you've revoked your consent, and then you're just super uncomfortable and you don't know how to say no. And then that's what gets you in trouble. So yeah, consent is sexy. Absolutely.
Have you guys ever seen the video called Consent is Like Tea, or Tea is Like Consent?
No.
It's like a stick figure
I might
animation
have.
video.
Yeah, maybe.
It's so brilliant because they break it down to would you like, and I'm totally going to bastardize this, but it's something to the effect of like, if someone was unconscious, they don't want tea.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here's the situation. I may have said that I want tea, but maybe 10 minutes from now, I've changed my mind and I don't want tea anymore. Oh, but you said you wanted tea. It's not okay to force hot liquid down someone's throat. Like it's just all those different scenarios of consent is tea.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've seen that video. That's a really good way of looking at it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've just found it. I'll watch it after this. Looks quite interesting. Yeah.
It's really good. It's really good.
See, look at all the great insights that we're sharing with just my dad right now. Maybe people will find this video later. I'm assuming it's still my dad that's watching. Like it's been consistently one viewer the entire time. Occasionally there's been like one other person will drop in, but
nice.
Yeah, so I think it's just my dad. Like I said, like my dad, name? Frank.
Hi, Frank.
Hey, Frankie.
It's nice that he's very supportive of me, but it is also kind of weird that he's comfortable hearing me talk about some of these topics.
It's weird for you.
It's weird for
Not
me.
Weird for him. Yeah. It's weird for you.
It's weird for
Get
me.
over it, pal.
Yeah.
I'm sure like he sees it, like I'm teaching him stuff as well. Like he's getting insights from me because I know it's a topic that he is very interested in, right? It's just, for me, it's weird as his daughter.
Sure.
Also, we all come from like different generational start points. So like what I was saying earlier, we don't get to choose where we grow up, nor do we get to choose excuse me, when we grow up. So we are all influenced and molded by the time norms, the cultural norms of the time period, but also of the location. So, I mean, we're all on different journeys from different eras.
Yeah, bro.
And there ain't nothing wrong
And there's nothing wrong with that.
with ending your journey whenever you want.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't be a dick about it.
Don't be a complete knob about it. Then yeah.
Well, friends, on that note, I think I have to tap out.
We've been going for 3 hours. I'm totally fine with that. I probably need
does
to
not feel like
check.
3 hours.
No, it feels like an hour. Yeah.
That is why I like having these kinds of conversations, because they can last for ages, but it doesn't feel like a long time, right? And yeah, I miss having conversations like this. So I definitely want to do more of this sort of thing. Look, we only got through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 question cards. 6 from the skip the small talk and 1 from my intimacy deck.
How many cards are there in total in the deck?
In the skip the small talk one, I think there's like 100.
Shit.
What is it? 100 plus questions to start conversations.
Nice.
Maybe there's 100 cards, but some of the cards have multiple questions because they're like 2 or 3.
All right, we got
questions.
25 more of these suckers to go.
Cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I will just be asking like whoever's available at any time, because I have other friends that I'm sure would be interested in joining as well. So
sure.
But yeah, I'm so glad that you both were happy to join me for this, and definitely want to do more of these. I'm glad that you're up for it. Yay. Even if the only viewer is my dad.
That's all we need.
300 years from now, someone from the future will find this and they'll go, what are they talking about?
This is what things were like back in 2024. And they're talking about things from 2005.
You mean consent was something that people actually debated about?
People are actually having sex back then?
Gross.
It's like that scene from
fertility farms now.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
It's just like that scene from Demolition Man. I don't know whether you guys remember. It was like, people actually had sex back then? Yeah.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that scene.
Remember in Demolition Man where like Sandra Bullock asks Sly for sex, and he's like, oh yeah, sure. And she puts this headset onto him, and they have this vision of them actually having sex, but they're not actually doing it to each other. And then he goes, he's like, but I don't want to use this. I want to do that. She's like, actually do it. You know, that kind of thing. So check it out.
I have no recollection of that at
Watch
all,
it.
of that scene.
Watch it.
Huh. Watch it again.
Wow.
Yeah. If anything, I'll just watch it for Wesley Snipes. So.
Oh, Wesley Snipes, man. What a train wreck.
All right, guys, thank you so much.
If anyone does happen to be watching this later after the fact and you want to watch more, look, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell. That's the best way to find out. I don't know, wherever that button is. That's the best way to find out when I'm going live, because I do it with no set time. If you want an announcement in advance, follow me on Instagram. I might be posting the times then. My Instagram handle is the same as my YouTube handle, which is Dominica, spelled the same on the screen, creates. So that's all. There you go. Thanks for joining, and I'm going to click